Hello, welcome to the Wargamer. I'm your host, Rob. Welcome to... No, not Stream Streak. Oh, no, it says Stream Streak on the overlay. No! Shit!
It's all wrong.
Nathan, this is all your fault! So, hello, everyone. Welcome to the show. Welcome to Sigmar Monday. I'm your host, Rob. I'm joined by Nathan Prescott, who is late.
I am very late, and I had to download some stuff, and I didn't know what was going on. Stupid machines. PC computer machine.
Also joined by James down here, our new TO expert.
Apparently so.
Yeah, and also joined by the wonderful, the unimpeachable, the immutably gorgeous and wonderfully spirited Mr. Dan Unsupervised over there. Hello, sir.
G'day, beautiful people. How you doing?
Yeah, yeah. Couldn't be happier to have you on the show. Thanks. How have you? I think Dan is the guest. We should ask how have you been? Are you well?
I am good. For some stupid reason, I got a promotion out of COVID. So yeah, while everybody else was locked up indoors for my many sins, they thought I did an okay job. The only downside has been is that instead of getting high on plastic glue as often as everybody else was locked indoors, I didn't get to do that. I just put a little bit in my mask and then wore it so that I still felt like I was getting high on plastic glue while I was doing my job.
Perfect. FYI, I don't think we encourage glue sniffing on the show, but I think that's how Nathan writes his army lists.
Other glues are available.
Yeah. So anyway, before we get started, and Dan, it's a pleasure to have you on the show. I literally, but days ago, maybe yesterday, someone was talking to me about the wonder that is you, and I was like, he is a wonderful person. So thanks for being here. Also, thank you to everyone else who is wonderful, our other co-hosts, the Twitch chat. So Wargamer, Toon King Tristan, thanks for subscribing, Wargamer. Datalist, thanks for subscribing. Also, thank you to Ziggy for donating some gifts, subscriptions in the chat, and getting us to a level 3 hype train. Oh my god.
Ziggy with it.
No.
Get Ziggy with it. Yeah, perfect. Also, thank you to the podcast guys. Please stay hydrated. And also, thank you to the guys on Patreon. Couldn't do it without you. You guys are the best. Hello to Pa in the chat. So, today's show, we are going to be taking you through the news on what we're all doing with our hobby. Bit of a broadcast moment. Nothing wrong with that. Then we'll be talking about the GHB 2020, or as James, you've got a name for it now.
The finished version of this year's General's Handbook.
Perfect. So we're talking about that.
The one you brought a few weeks ago was not finished.
And then we'll also be talking to... we'll also be doing the Anvil of Apotheosis, whatever the fuck that is. I'm still not sure what it is. But before we do that, Nath, you were late. Was that because you were doing some hobby?
No, I was fighting with the PC computer machine, trying to get it to download Skype or something, or upload it, or whatever.
What?
But first of all, I had to get to the room where the PC computer machine was. So I had to drive away and then get there. There we go. Plugged my head thing in.
What have you done any hobby this week? Age of Sigmar hobby?
I've had some games, and that's about it, I think. Although as of today, my list is about 100 points cheaper, so I need to find some more shit to put in there.
Okay. So you said you have played Warhammer.
Yes. So on the weekend, went down to Portsmouth to visit some family of my girlfriend's, and whilst I was there, seeing as I was in that neck of the woods, managed to meet up with the Bruces in Bruce Manor, and managed to get a couple of games in against Rick the Bruce Mihal.
Were they fun?
Yeah. It was great. We played the Blade's Edge, or whatever it's called. The one that we played the two new ones. So I played 2,000 points the Blade's Edge, and then 1,000 points of the Forced Hand. And they're both fun. Yeah, pretty good games. Yeah, I like the way the objectives just do their own thing. Well, they don't do their own thing, but like their the objectives start disappearing on the blade's edge, and then the other one, the forced hand, your opponent picks a primary one for you to go and hunt down. So it's pretty cool. So I took a cities list, the one that I played against you the other day with the gun hauler, and little contingent of KO in a Tempest Eye. All the rest were dispossessed opters. Oh, and there was a small little flock of birds, ravens, we'll call them, even though they're really Aether Wings.
Aether Wings.
Yeah. And then for the 1,000-point game, so I played against Rick's Blood Gullet list. Ended up losing that game. It was pretty close, but yeah, I think didn't manage to kill the Stonehorn first turn. So
was he ethereal?
No, he was just a bastard. And then,
but not an ethereal one.
No, he had a blood splatter cleaver that healed himself up pretty good. And then I borrowed his ogres in the 1,000-point game, and I played against Slave Darkness in Force to the Hand. Again, it was good. It was cool, but that was only 1,000 points, so we were already spread out. So he got up early, but then I managed to. Ogres are really good at just soaking it up and then coming back later on. The ogres are great. I enjoyed playing with them and against them. Yeah,
they've got a really fun late game. That's what I dig about playing them. Like you can take a ton of damage and only have a handful of models left at the end of the game, and you're like, I'm still gonna make you cry.
Yeah, they really soak it up, and and they can dish it out as well. So
they can.
Also,
can I just go on, Dan, after you.
Someone redeemed push-ups and sit-ups, and ever since you added that shit in, people keep making me do it. So I just want to flag that someone's making you do it.
Okay, I'm going to do some sit-ups while I thank Ziggy in the chat for donating 10 gift subscriptions. These are my sit-ups, by the way, which has taken us to level 4 Hype Train, and Tirathi for subscribing for 2 months. You great. Also, you guys are great. Thanks for that. I don't know what. I'm still not. He asked in the chat what a hype train is. Still not 100% certain. But we're nearly at level.
How can you not know? It's a
I don't
train
know.
of hype.
Yeah. But what does it do?
Well, that's it.
Have you seen Snowpiercer?
What does it need to do?
That, but it's a lot less grim and like negative, basically. It's all the fun of it without the losing an arm.
Welcome to the Honest Wargamer, 1001 trains long. Whoever it is.
Great show.
Thanks everyone for that anyway. The ogres are really fun, and thankfully in the new FAQ they got 0 help in the points updates. Nathan, did you feel that they needed help? Also, Dan, are you excited that Nathan was playing with the Dispossessed still?
Oh, yeah, definitely. And I think I even commented on the photo of that. I can't remember whose it was. Maybe it was yours, where there were some other shittier species in there, but obviously the Dispossessed, the gyrocopters, just flying over the top in their superior position.
Oh, they were, the dwarves did really well, actually. And, it's interesting that my list gained... So it gained some points before the FAQ, but after today, 100 points went down. So that's just like... But then the ogre list just stayed... That's it.
Well, we'll be talking about the points updates now in a moment. Before that, though, James, you've been doing some hobby recently, haven't you? What have you been doing?
I did do some hobby. So a long time ago, at the very beginning of this kind of horrific time, I measured my garden and was like, I'm going to do an event. I'm not going to go to any events. I'm going to put an event on. I'm going to do it in my garden. And then it just kept getting like, I was like, can I make this work? Measured it all up, worked it out at 2 meters. And then finally, when they reduced it to 1, I was like, I can do this. So big props to Nick Thompson, who provided some
The first brain squig.
to tables, and some stuff. And yeah, so we put on a little event in my garden. There's some photos on my Twitter or my Instagram. So it was just like 8 people that I know really well, that I just invited to kind of test the water and see if we could make it work. Yeah, we're really well.
Wait, hold
really
on.
good.
You did it in your garden or in a pool?
In my garden.
Why was the water?
There was no water.
You tested it. What did you test it for? COVID?
Oh. Yeah, tested the water. Well, just to see. So when I originally measured it up, I was like, I could get, I think 8 tables in at a social distance. But the issue was, I was like, I don't know if it works. And then the other issue is, obviously, we played outside, so it was super weather dependent. So hilariously, it was supposed to be in Birmingham yesterday because I checked the weather every day for 2 weeks. It was supposed to be, realistically, I think like 13 degrees max and very cloudy. And it was actually, in theory, 18 degrees, but probably hotter and really sunny. So I am probably the first, I reckon, tournament organizer that put a load of nerds outside in the sun. Several did leave with burn lines. Some more horrific than others, and to the point where we had to put the brolly over. He won't be in here, but James Boots had to have a brolly over his head just to protect him from burning anymore, and he was only in game 2.
I also like that you. I also like that you described a social. You're like, it was at a social distance. Like 2 meters now is no longer 2 meters. It's like a social distance. It's like, what'd you do? I fucking threw this lad down the stairs. He travelled about a social distance worth of speed. That's how far he went. Distance, sorry, even. Also, big shout out to Velatron in the chat for donating 5,000 bits to the show, and also MJ Pegasus and Mamdare. We're at nearly level 5 hype train, if anyone knows what that would mean. So
5,001 cars long.
Yes, we've done it! We've done it! Level 5. Yes.
But the thing I love about that little burn thing is that last week I got sunburnt for the first time in 18 months since moving to Canada. It was a 28, 29 degree day, and I spent all day in the sun, and I got a little bit pink, and then caught up with some Australian friends who mercilessly roasted me for getting sunburnt over here. And I just love that 18 to 20 degrees over there is a danger zone for getting burnt. In Australia, we'd still be wearing like jumpers and hoodies and shit and being like, oh shit, it's a bit freezing, isn't it? So obviously just the pigment wars is where we're at, is how fast you burn. Nathan, I assume you never burn. You just, the sun fears you.
Yeah. It's a thing that you don't see very often, that sun thing, but yeah. It's nice when we do. I can imagine it was a surprise in Birmingham, of all places.
Hey, look, lots of nerds got burned. I did not. I don't really burn, so it was fine for me.
We've just had some info, by the way, updated about the hype train. Apparently, it means that everyone in the chat is now a legend. Congratulations. Not you have been legended, though, which is very different. Which is which is kind of like saying get fucked. Is that's the what Games Workshop version of get fucked is you're a legend, you are. I quite like the idea of Garbod. Rob, been listening to the podcast for a long time, first time live. Thanks for the streamer content. Oh, my pleasure. Also, thanks to Dan, Nathan, and James as well. Right, okay. Has anyone got anything else on the hobby I've been doing recently until we move on to news? Also, James, go on. Sorry, Dan, after you.
I'm just going to say I've been converting a bunch of Lumineth Realm Lords to all have hammers and axes because fuck off pointy sticks, and also to make them undead because the only good elf is a dead elf.
Well, that was actually going to be my point, Alex. Thank you very much for the bits donation. That was going to be my point to Nath, but I got waylaid. Is Nathan, Dan is playing with elves and not dwarves.
Yeah, but dead ones.
yeah. And I'm going to be
it's
really happy.
It's like after you fuck them up, then you can just kick them around a bit. And that's What did you do?
I did just realise. Sorry, Nathan, you can finish first.
Oh, James,
they're finished.
how nice of you.
Just kick in.
I realised I had another piece of hobby news.
What is it?
Well, yesterday I built these. I don't know if you're going to be able to see. Can you see? They're just blurring.
No, you just disappeared.
Okay. I built the Splintered Fang yesterday. And I think they're the best models I've ever built.
Was the Splinter what from Warcry?
From Warcry.
Why did you like them so much?
Warcry. I brought the Splintered Fang because they're pretty, and I think they are the prettiest models I've ever built.
Really? That's a
I
big,
love
that's a
them.
big claim.
The snake arm guy is like the best thing ever.
Okay.
Like, big fan.
That's really interesting. I really like those kits. They just don't have any functional rules that I want to use them for, if that makes sense.
Oh, but I'm playing Warcry with them. So.
Oh, okay. You and those like 8 guys are gonna have like the best time.
That's fine.
I love the idea of throwing a snake at someone. Like, someone comes at you with a spear or an axe or a hammer, you know what they're gonna do. Someone throws a fucking snake at you, you're like, oh god, no! Like, this weapon has a mind of its own. Why would you do this?
Also, James, how can they be prettier than all those Marauders that you painted up?
Because one's got snake arms. I can't show you because my camera's not working. They're so good. Honestly, like, I was building them. I was like, these are great. Like, I think, and I probably shouldn't say this, but I think they were better and more fun to build than my Lumineth.
Really?
Yeah.
Really? Well, Dan, what was it like building Lumineth, and why are you interested in... I've seen this online. I've seen that you were doing it, but why have you decided to build elves, sir?
Well, okay. I've been wanting to get excited about something new for a little while, and I've been copping a lot of flack because I haven't yet played an Age of Sigmar army. Like, as in, like, the armies that I've played are all they're pre-existing from the old world, like dispossessed into cities, ogres into the more tribes. So I was like, I've been looking for one, and then I started to see like the leaks for them, and I was like, mountain cows, hammers. I could love this. And then I saw these beautiful pointy elves, and I was like, that'd look rad with a skull, or like with shattered shields and worn armor and patchwork holes punched through their cloaks. I was like, ooh, I can really mess them up. And I don't know, I started, the more like that thought built into my head, I was like, oh, okay, I really want to do it. And it became like a hobby idea. But inside me, there was this internal war of self-loathing that I find myself at, because I'm obviously a beard trader, and everyone in the chat, everyone on Twitter, you are 100% right. I have betrayed everything I know, love, and stand for. But if there's one defense, it's that I'll put out I'm making a little video at the moment on how to convert Realm Lords to be better, basically. And I guarantee it's pikes and bendy shit, it's not going to be a problem. You can have hammers and skull faces.
Are they all still wizards though?
Yeah, only if you cast spells with them.
Okay, cool. Just checking. That's what matters. Everyone's a wizard.
Yeah, they are all still wizards.
Once you finish that tutorial, could you then do another tutorial on how to convert them so they're in robes and all have lightning strike scars on their head?
And every single one of them has an owl that dies and
a broom. A broom, no spears, a broom.
We're here to clean up the mortal realms.
Where's that Stormcast chamber?
I haven't done much HCMR hobby this week, FYI for everyone. But I have had an amazing chat with Mamdare, who I think is in the chat, who runs the podcast Party at the All Points. He was on the day show today, so it was a fun time talking to him. But not much hobby for me. But I have been very excited. I woke up this morning feeling like I needed to pee. That was the feeling, but I couldn't. You know, that kind of like blocked up, strong feeling. And that was the feeling I was getting waiting for the GHB points to finally come out as PDFs. And then Games Workshop allowed me to release the stream, which I was very happy about. And then we're going to review them now, I think. But another bit of quick news. Cinderfall Gaming are running an Age of Sigmar tournament over in Australia. Some places are able to have events, which is quite exciting, unlike James's secret garden party. Also, if you weren't invited to the garden party, think about probably why you weren't and why you suck. Like...
But they could have been number 9 and I could only fit 8 in. So all you need to do is take out Nick Thompson.
That's it. That's it. What? So just.
Is he the low-hanging fruit of your garden party?
He could have been.
So who won the event? Who won the event?
Mr. Simon Eccles.
Oh my god! Oh my god! What was it based on? Was there a lot of soft scores, or like was it kind of like? So, was it like a special award?
Only did majors, victory points. Sorry, so like for major, minors, etc. And then we did strength of schedule.
Oh wow! So you took it seriously.
Yeah. So I decided like we were going to do it and we were going to do it properly. So there was some other rules in there that were like for fun. So there was a virus that could damage one hero per each of your hero phases. And then if someone rolled 2 6s on the trot, it did like just something stupid that was going to really completely change games. But what I basically decided, because no one had played in months, was that we'd just keep it really basic but serious. So that people could play, and that then basically like just play Warhammer. But people's lists were super fun because I think people were like, I just want to play. So Speckles brought, Feck. But so Nick Thompson turned up with a pure Skyer list. James Boots turned up with a pure Eshin list. That was interesting to see.
Oh really? Did it work?
No.
Oh.
He's a great player, but no. So every round when I don't even know what character it is. That's how much Eshin I know. There's one that can throw 3 daggers, and if you roll above the wounds characteristic of the hero, they die.
Yeah.
So that one. Every time that he rolled that, I went over to watch. Didn't kill anything.
Oh really?
But it was great. It was great fun. It was just nice. It was nice to see a bunch of people, and it was nice to see a bunch of people play Warhammer, I guess.
There was also the Age of Sigmar event at Exploding Dice this weekend in Northern Ireland, which is fun, or as I like to call it, the Derry Girls HQ is the.
Even I got that reference.
I'm just not going to stop saying that now. It's just the best. Basically, TV shows are now how I basically rate everywhere. Obviously, you've got Outlander to the north of us. You've got Derry Girls. We're Downton Abbey. America is Mad Max. I know that was set in Australia. No, it's just Mad Max. Right, so
and
news.
Australia is like a dangerous planet or something like that.
What is... I don't know what a great Aussie show... It's Crocodile Dundee, surely. Or it's Steve Irwin. Like, that's what it is. Just...
Rest his soul.
Yeah, always. Right, so on to the FAQ news, if you guys are excited about. So, Dan, if you weren't here I know you weren't here for the last show. Yeah, it could be Neighbours. That's also great.
Oh, God.
That's pretty dangerous.
Yeah, it's pretty dangerous. So, the last time when we did the review show for the GHB, so it's nice to do this. We talked about the internal balance and the external balance of a book. So the external balance is, does it make the army more or less competitive? And then the internal balance is, does it move the points around in units so that there's more variety in the army? And all of the things that have had FAQs, not all of the things, that's not true, but there are obviously some standout problems. Like last year, it was Fleshy Quarters and Skaven. We were all waiting for those to get some FAQs and change some stuff up. Now, some interesting things about these FAQs before anyone goes on about it, or before we go on about it, sorry, is someone did some clever metadata tracking on the PDFs, and apparently these things have been ready since the 27th of last month, which is, yeah. I was a bit like, okay, all right, I don't know what to do with that other than like, I mean, I guess it's hard to upload stuff to a website. Probably takes 10 to 15 minutes. Like, and they're busy, right? Updating the app.
Drag and drop. Yeah.
I struggled today. Fucking machines, computer machines.
Why? What happened, Nath?
I had to upload Skype.
But to be fair, though, your job is not uploading stuff to a computer.
I know. I figured that out as well whilst I was doing it.
So the updates that we got, and if I miss any, then shout out up in the chat. As far as I can see, are Seraphon got an update, Osiat Bone Reaper's got an update, Ogre More Tribe's got an update, Uruk Warclan's got an update, Wrath of the Everchosen got an update, Safe Starters got an update, and then Karajan Overlords got an update, Cities of Sigmar got an update, Zine got an update, and yeah, KO. So I think that's all of them, which is exciting. So, Dan, as the very special guest, which of those would you like to choose first, sir?
Oh, you know exactly where I'm going to go first and foremost. It's the one that still features my beautiful beardy people, the Cities of Sigmar, baby.
Okay, all right. So, the Cities of Sigmar, the official errata. So, I wasn't 100% certain if they changed, if this is all new stuff. Because it would be in magenta, so I don't think it is, having just come out an hour ago. So it's just the points changes is what we've seen. And so I'm going to go through them here. Okay, so there's no rules changes. Did we think that Cities of Sigmar need any rules changes? I don't think so. They seem fine. Yeah, they're fine. So then, so Ironbreakers and Longbeards points changes. So Longbeards have gone down to 100 for 10 and 240 points for 30, which seems like a bargain.
It's a gift. It is a bargain. It's proper bargain, that is.
They're also Battle Line. How much did they go down by? 10 or 20 points?
10.
Okay. Yeah. All right. I mean, but that's still... they got a 4-up save. So it's still 10 wounds with a 4-up save, right?
Yeah, 3-up saving combat if you give them shields.
Okay. All right. Okay.
But they're the thing. Longbeards aren't your combat hitters. They're a buff piece, like second line for me, and because of all of their support abilities.
Yeah.
So I that's their spot. So the fact that they were a little bit more expensive.
They basically give you reroll 1s to wound, which is a great ability because you got so much reroll 1s to hit elsewhere. So
and it's reroll 1s to wound flat, not in combat. It used to be reroll 1s to wound in combat. Now they're like, nah, are you shooting? Well, I'm going to have a little bit of a whinge, and you're going to get better.
Yeah, fucking shoot better.
just moaning all day long. Doesn't sound like Nathan.
I like that it doesn't make their accuracy better, though. It makes the wounding better. So obviously their grumbles affect the bullets. The bullets are like, oh, shit, I better think out what I'm doing here. I just can't let Steve down again. And they're like loading themselves into the chamber being like, come on, bullet.
Is Steve
Put the sharper bullet in.
It's a very dwarven name.
So Longbeards went down to 100, and also Ironbreakers went down. And Grinaldi has pointed out in the chat, Longbeards are now the best points for wounds unit in Cities of Sigmar because they have a 6+ ward save with the Rune Lord as well. And then Ironbreakers, who aren't bad either, went down. And they're now 110 points for 10 and 270 points for 30. Also Battle Line. So
that's a really good price. Yeah.
Really, really good. Not forgetting that those Longbeards can have a 2-up save in Tempest Eye on turn 1, which is wild for holding them objectives. So the Steam Tank went down some points, now 180. So it will still be never used because it's shit, which is good. Battle Mage has gone up, I think, by 10 points. I think it was 100, and I think it's now gone to 110. I think that's right.
Did we miss Ironbreakers? Have they changed? They're starred.
Yeah.
I haven't got there yet, I don't think.
Yeah, that's the one. Yeah,
we said them.
Rob did mention them. Yeah.
Oh,
Sorry.
perfect.
Just
Thank you.
from your lofty angle, were you looking above the heads of my bearded brethren? Is that what happened? You're like,
Yeah,
oh,
I was
didn't
just
notice
like,
you down there, little
these
fella.
all look the same.
That's Fire Slayers. By the way, the mage went up 20 points. Now that would be in direct relation to the other change that we've seen. So specifically the bridge, the Soul Screen bridge, the Ender spell that came out with Forbidden Power was a direct nerf to one of the more obvious or the more taken competitive builds for City Sigmar, which is obviously the Hallowheart bridge with gunline build. It was like a 4-drop, and when it's won some events, it's gone 5 in a few events, so that's the thing. So both the increase in bridge and the increase into the battle mages, I feel like is a direct hit to Hallowheart specifically as well. Also, it's kind of interesting the battle mage change as well, because do they have to be battle mages can just be from any realm, right? They don't have to be from the realm that your army is from.
Yeah, they pick their magic from any realm. Yeah.
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 So then, okay, so the battle mage going up 20 points. I mean, it seems fine personally. 110 points for a wizard, I know, is not the done thing nowadays. It's like you're like a skink wizard who's like 70 points. Like, lol. The Warden King is now 100 points. I feel like that's a drop.
Yeah. Drop 10-point drop. I think he was 110. So yeah, that's pretty good. He's a tasty little fella. My little Warden King did some proper damage to the ogres. Actually, he went through a few things before he finally went down. So, and he's a great buffer as well. So if you're going with a combat build on your dwarves,
Yeah. Okay. Go on, Dan. Sorry, after you.
I was just going to say he's even at 100. I think he's maybe sitting a little bit too high. You compare him to like I compare him to Hag Queens and shit like that still. But he's great at 100. He's better. He used to be 140, which was absurd.
Yeah.
So he's in a much better place. I'd say for a 5-wound hero, he still might be sitting a little bit high, but I love him. He's a solid little combat beast himself, but then he's a force multiplier for the beards around him.
Oh, perfect. Yeah. So the Steam Tank Commander also went down points. No one cares. And then the Black... I mean, someone cares, but not me. And then that's important. The Blackguard have also gone down to 130 points, which I think is a 10-point drop. Which, because if you combine that with... Sorry, I'll go through it, because this is the important point to make, is that they haven't changed Phoenix Guard, so it doesn't matter. I was like, oh, there's the Phoenix Guard point change, but no, they haven't. So Blackguard have gone down, Execution has gone down, Great Swords have gone down, which is cool, as kind of those infantry units, but they unfortunately, and Executioners have gone down. Actually, Executioners, you can get 30 of them for 300 points, which is really good, because they could do some work, as can the Blackguard, which you can get... they cost a lot more. That's 390 for 30. But the Phoenix Guard are 420 points for 30, and they're basically just double the wounds of those other units for not many more points. So,
yeah, Phoenix Guard either needed to go up, or everything else that is a battle line option needed to come down a bit. Like, even when I'm drawing my lists up, I'm like, man, Phoenix Guard point for point, they're just better. And I don't like admitting that. Like, Hammerers are savage in combat, but then you compare them to Phoenix Guard, and I'm like, the durability there is insane.
Are you saying you want to play elves?
No, I'm not.
The exact
Definitely
opposite.
not.
Yeah.
I'm saying
That's
I'm
what
still
it
going
sounded like.
I'm still going to take Hammerers because they're awesome, and I still want to take Iron Breakers because they're awesome. However, it just hurts me that in the book you have, like, on the next page, a unit that is pointed better with this, like, effectively an extra 50% of the wounds on top of whatever you pay for. Stupid elves.
Yeah.
Cheating. That's called cheating.
And they can only have that one after damage save, but thankfully theirs is a 4-up, so they're fine with that. So Scourge Runner Chariots went up some points, which is good, because as much as I enjoyed the Scourge Runner Chariot on TTS, it was a nightmare to behold for absolutely everyone. So it's good that it's gone. And then I think that's it. Drixborn Knights also came down points as well, which they could be a thing if there was a lot of terrain on the board, because they're really quite good in cover, but unfortunately they didn't. So they're all the changes. So I guess the question is for you guys is, do you think it's affected the internal parity at all? So the internal, like out of 5, or did we do out of 5 or out of 10 last time? I can't remember.
We
Or
didn't
good or
score,
bad?
did we?
Oh no, it was pass or fail.
Yeah.
So pass or fail for for the making the internal balance better or the external balance better. Nath, you got any thoughts?
Well, obviously, I'm happy that a fair few things of my stuff went down. But like everybody's pointing out, I guess the Phoenix Guard are the one that everybody's comparing against at the moment. And it sounds like they're still the kings of the roost when it comes to the most efficient unit for their points. But it doesn't mean I'll be taking those bastards.
Well, I think the thing to talk about actually is that, especially Tempest Eye, I feel like this makes Tempest Eye a little bit more viable, because now there's just like you said, Nath, maybe 100 more points in this list here, which is another unit of dwarves can sit on an objective with a 3-up save maybe on the first turn, and that's decent.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Hello.
I'd say that.
Oh, he's gone.
I lost
He
him.
talked about elves too much. He's out.
That's it. I'd say for my money,
he's
what
back.
they did well.
Go on, Dan. Sorry.
For my money, what they did well is they actually brought the dispossessed elements and the Darkling Coven elements a little bit more back into the fold, but then to like miss out on the Wanderers and other parts. So I think it's an improvement, definitely, but I would still say it's a fail, because with so many options in the book, the first thing I looked at was Phoenix Guard, and I was drawing the comparison of everything to them, and I'm like, it's better, but this hasn't fixed that.
No, I don't think so either, in any way. But it's nice to see those Hellstorm rocket batteries haven't changed points. I was really happy about that. The 4 of them at the back of the board is always really fun. And it's also nice to see the execute. Like, they're not getting any closer, I don't think, with the executions of the Blackguard. But executions are just boss models. So 30 of those for 300 points is kind of a fun thing to stick in your list. Go on, James. Sorry.
I was just going to say, like, I know you're all going to moan at me about the Phoenix Guard thing, but like, just like trying to sit and do some mental maths. So where are we? So it's 420 points for 30 Phoenix Guard, but now for 480 points you can have 60 Longbeards. I mean, that's pretty good, I would say.
Yeah, agreed. Agreed.
Like,
but
Horde, I know some people will never want to play a Horde, but like, there's a lot of models for not many points.
It is. It's a lot
And
of
they're
board
good.
space.
Like,
Yeah, absolutely. The thing is, though, with the Cities of Sigmar, I guess, so pass and fail on external, internal balance. Do you think this makes Cities of Sigmar any more competitive? Yes or no?
Pass.
Okay, Nath?
Yeah, it will make them more competitive, because you'll be able to include more stuff. So yeah. Yeah, I'll give it a pass. I mean, sometimes I think the points. I don't know if points are the answer. Sometimes it's more to do with the war scrolls, but yeah, I think it's all right.
I'd agree with that. James, pass fail?
I think it's a pass. Like, I still think one of the coolest things about this book on the whole was that it's a load of models from a load of different, probably like time periods in the hobby, but also different races. And I think it'll be cool to hopefully maybe the small points drops will make us see some differences. And I think, like having 60 models for 480 points is always going to be good comparatively. So
Yeah.
Well,
I think cities have definitely gained, because also the Stormcast points have dropped. You've got quite a few drops there, so...
Well, I was about to say that what they lost in points on the bridge, they gained on points on the Celestin Prime, right? So, like, you've got that kind of swing there, or even Incanters, if you wanted to include one of those in.
Incantors, yeah.
Yeah. So there's like the cities are kind of this interesting thing, a bit like Legions of Nagash, where they're affected by the things inside the book, well, like around the book sometimes as well. Which brings us on to possibly. So for me, pass for making the. It hasn't made the army any less competitive, I would say, and maybe has opened up a different build. Because I think I played Nathan City's Tempest Eye build, and I was like, that's a lot of 3-up armor saves on the first turn I got to chew through. So that's pretty good. So I think I'd like to see that played around with more. And then, sorry, Nath.
A lot of that is 2-up as well in combat. That first turn.
Yeah, it is. It is. But talking about we've got the so talking about this, we obviously have to get into these fellas. Now they are wankers in boats. We can't be denied. But it seems, Nathan and Dan, that your KO, your dwarven brethren, have had some significant love, which might be. It might be, if I can read this right, that apart from Fire Slayers, there's all of the dwarves are getting bonuses.
As it should be.
As it should be. So we've had some points revisions on the Chariot Overlords, who arguably weren't in a terrible place. Because this is an interesting point, right? They're not Beasts of Chaos, who are in a bad place. They're not Sylvaneth, who are in a bad place. They're not... I'm trying to think, Nighthaunt, who are in a bad place. So there's a whole bunch of armies who are really like, you could probably take a look at us. Khorne, not in a good place. And instead they were like, nah, KO, they're doing okay, so let's buff them. So Archanaut Frigate has come down by 10, maybe 20 points. So it's 220. The Ironclad is 480. The Archanaut Admiral has come down, I think, 20 points as well, to 120. Brock has come down. Engine Master with Dirigible Suit was 200 and is now 190. Is that right?
220 to 190. He's dropped 30 points.
30 points. Holy shit. And then the Gun Hauler.
Biggest GW points drops get.
And the Eidolon is sat there like, what the fuck? Like...
And meanwhile, Eels are standing just behind him, being like, "Please don't notice us.
We're okay here. We're underwater. Don't look."
Nothing to see. You've got to shoot the closest unit. It's that guy over there.
Don't look at me. So anyway, the boats apparently came down 30 points. So the Gun Hauler is now 130. Was he 160 before?
No, he's come down 20, I think. He was 150. The Gun Hauler, I think.
But then all the battalions have come down as well. So 120, 100. It was 120 for the Escort Wing, 100 for the Iron Sky Attack Squadron, and 110 for the Iron Sky Command. I think what's most exciting about this is we really needed more shooting in the game. We weren't really at the right place with the shooting, and so I for one happy to bow down to my new Chariot Overlords. I think is my feelings. Nath, you play this army. Dan, you play this army. What do you guys think?
Yeah, so obviously I've got a small contingent in my cities list, half of the Blightwall box, and that's just giving me loads of points. Well, the Gun Hauler and the Engine Master, that's just great. I mean, that Engine Master guy, you could probably take 3 or 4 of him and have a great time, because he's a proper little gun platform. I think Karajon. And the battalion has dropped. I know there's a list out there which is just like as many frigates as you can get. A Barrack Zilfin list, because I think they become battle line there.
Yeah,
and they're only 220 points.
Yeah, I mean, so you could probably end up with, I don't know, 7
10?
odd frigates flying around.
No, that's not right. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, you want a few characters. So, 7 frigates that just suddenly teleport wherever they want and just blow the shit out of something and then go somewhere else. That's pretty...
Sounds fun. Sounds really engaging. So, like, you're there like, I put all my guys there, they're like, I'm going to teleport 7 guys, shoot, teleport the fuck away. You'd be like, this is fucking shit!
Yeah. Yeah.
Yep. Welcome our new bullet daddies.
Yeah, do you know what they were like? They were like, I think the teleporting a unit of salamanders somewhere and killing stuff is a really shitty experience for people. And then the guy's like, think about it though. What if you did it 7 times? Completely different experience.
Hey, what if instead of a unit of salamanders, it was a big ass boat full of other dudes with guns, like guns inside of guns? Have we considered that as a better option? Like, are you sure? Are you 100% sure? And they're like, yeah, no. People don't like it when it's one unit, but they're gonna love it when it's a unit inside of another unit. That's just that. Times 2 negatives together, and it gives you a positive. Let's do it. And then they wrote the book.
Oh my god, amazing. I can't wait for the guy that does that. I'm like, listen, dude, cool. Just handshakes. You got to paint 7 of them boats. I'm out. Like, let's go. I can't be...
They're nice to paint, I'll tell you that. They're fun to paint. I enjoy painting mine.
Yeah, you're
No,
going to paint...
I'm not, but
Someone is.
somebody will.
And
not that
as someone
nice
in
to
the
paint.
chat correctly pointed out, 3 gun haulers now fits perfectly into your allies as well. So I think we might start seeing that in a lot of lists too.
So I have something to say about this, yeah, because I don't know, Dan, if you've seen this, James and Nathan, I know you especially won't have seen this, but the guys at Warhammer Weekly quite often give us shit. I don't know if you've seen this, Nath. Whenever we talk about things, like they're just like, they rag on us. They're like, oh, you guys have got opinions, etc. We've been called terrorists, Tories, all sorts. Yeah, right. It's bang out of order. And let me tell you whose fault this is. This is specifically Warhammer Weekly's fault. Yeah, the bunch of effete, like liberal, well-educated, dandies. Yeah. Right? Yeah.
You posh twats! Who are they anyway?
Vince!
Who
You've met
are
Vince!
ya? Who
You've
are
met
ya?
Vince! You've met Vince! So screw those guys, because they were complaining. I don't know if you guys will cycle back to the review show for Carriage and Overlords. Warhammer Weekly were like, oh my god, they're so rubbish. Here's all the reasons why. That's how they speak, by the way. And then Nathan was like, just like, these guys are amazing, best army ever. So go back and watch the Honest Wargamer review of it. Yeah,
I didn't. Nathan read the book to us for 4.5 hours though.
Yeah, like hours.
That's all I remember, because we weren't in lockdown then, was being sat there while Nathan read me every bloody fact.
Let me out! No, stay inside the boat until we're done.
Just looking out the porthole, being like,
He was so excited.
So excited. What's really funny is I got loads of messages about that. Like, I love this. I just want Nathan to be really excited about one book. That's it. Just let him read it to me. Anyway, so this is their fault. So if anyone's got a problem with this, because I haven't, and I don't think Nathan has, or nor Dan, I don't know what you think, Dan. This is their fault. Yeah. I don't love it. I think it's atrocious, but it's fine. Whatever. James, you got any thoughts?
pass, everything pass.
Yeah.
Yeah,
bring
it's
passion.
just good. Like,
Dwarf
I
superiority.
mean, I'm not a KO player, and I don't like. I like the boat, but it's just such a small amount of models. I'd never play it, but if I was, I'd be very happy.
If you like the boats, you're in for a fun time.
I could. I don't think I could paint 7. I think it'd be really boring by like the 4th. But I think like positive if you're playing them, and especially if you've got like if you've already got a load of frigates and you're like, oh, one more.
Also, you can name all the boats. You know, like those like World War II fighter jet movies, like not fighter jets, but like you know, with they've got like the names on the side with the painting of the lady.
They'd have to have the names of like women lost at sea. I think.
Oh, okay. What is it?
Woman lost at sea.
Yeah, and then
like boats are always named after girls.
What
aren't
happens
they?
in Birmingham? When the sun's up, you just start losing women at sea. The,
Not mine. I'm not buying a KO army.
name it after. We had a prime minister in Australia
What's up?
who went for a swim and never came back. You could name it after him as well.
All of them after her, just for confusion, and you'd be like, "What was her name?"
Oh no, it was a bloke. I actually, and I'm going to show off
Okay,
how
what was
terrible
his
I am.
name?
I don't know. I can't remember. I'm going to Google it right.
Useless. We'll call him Rob. So, oh, you just got all the SS Rob, and they'd be like, "Which one you shooting?" I'd be like, "Which one you shooting? The SS
Harold
Rob."
Holt. Harold
one?
Holt was his name.
Okay.
Which is pretty close to Rob.
It's close to me. Yeah. Right.
Might be where he ended up. Nottingham. You found him.
Right. So, big wins for KO, both an internal and an external pass. Congratulations, Carrion Overlords, which also benefits, obviously, Cities of Sigmar. So, Cities of Sigmar, pass, which is not really what we were expecting from this. Well, I didn't. Can't wait to see those more tribe points updates, though. I imagine they're going to be so good. Now, next up for some sad news for all you guys out there who love a bit of change. The Disciples of Tzeentch have had some changes. Specifically, the Gaunt Summoner of Tzeentch, who...
Let's not talk about it.
Who had the dumbest ability maybe ever seen in Age of Sigmar to be able to just summon 10 pink horrors, can now only summon 5 horrors of Tzeentch. So, so instead of being able to summon 10 pink horrors, can now summon... I mean, you can still summon 10 Plague Bearers as well if you wanted, which isn't a bad shout. But 5 horrors of Tzeentch. We're all over the moon about this change. Dan, Nathan, James?
Yeah,
yes or no?
yeah. Thumbs up.
Yeah. Amazing. Great. Quality of game.
Yeah. It needed to happen. I mean, as someone that owns 3. But it definitely needed to happen.
Yeah.
Especially for the Tzeentch book, I think.
Did anybody ever summon anything other than 10 horrors?
I will, so originally when I built the army, I didn't own the pinks. So I played a couple of games and I think one event using basically 10 Plague Bearers, 10 Demonettes, 10 pinks, because fuck Khorne.
Fair.
And the issue always was, so Demonettes actually have some quite good mobility and use, but are paper. Plague Bearers are rubbish in 10s. So the issue was that every time I did it, I was like, it's kind of cool bringing on like random things and it all looking different and using a load of models. But every time I did it, I was like, there's no point in this. Like, they're just not as good as 10 pinks.
So a good change. It needed to happen. It's an excellent change. This plus the Croak points changes are gonna like really balance the game right the fuck out. Yeah, so that's a good change. And like maybe I'd have liked to have seen it. They just summoned 10 blues instead. I don't know if the maths is the same there, maybe, but like five is actually
you're still getting 10 blues, aren't you? So 5 pinks, 10 blues,
10 brim.
Yeah, but it's actually quite tough because what I would do is I would summon the 10 pinks for a screen initially. And that was always a good like kind of front line. But anyway, but then horrors also, pink horrors and horrors of Tzeentch, so pink horrors specifically, also went up to by an extra 20 points, which I actually think is fair. And I'm actually really happy about this change because I did say already about this on a previous show. Is the problem with Tzeentch is that there are lots of other options, but if you've already bought yourself 30 pink horrors, 50 blue horrors, or whatever you might have done, painting them up, just making it so they don't exist anymore, and then you have to take either Acolytes or Zangor. And Zangor are much worse. There are some Acolyte builds which are kind of interesting, but again, they really pigeonhole your army. So I'm glad that they didn't go too hard on the horrors, but maybe, 20 points or whatever. Like, I still sometimes think these point changes are fairly nominal. Do you know what I mean? I'm like,
and pinks are like horrible to kill, but they don't do a lot. Like, they can't fight.
No, but once they're on an objective, it's just like trying to, I don't know.
Yeah, they're a complete tar pit, and I understand like it's not engaging play, but I think like if you'd have gone the other way and made them like 300 points, like they're not that good.
No.
And I know they're better in the Tzeentch book than Slaves, which is where I was using them, but you know,
they're
I think
in a better
place.
place. Yeah, I think so as well.
And you can also
they do disappear. I mean, there are units that can just make them disappear.
Yeah.
Like a buffed up unit of Vine Jaws or something like that will go through the 10 pinks, the 20 blues, the however many piss all over the little fire things and go home.
To be honest, the
God,
one that hurt me more was when was the Gaunt Summoner summoning 10 of them. I actually didn't mind so much when people had them in their list, but when they were like, also, I've got a couple of Gaunt Summoners here, shebang-a-bang. I was like,
yeah, well, I think...
oh.
Because the other thing is, isn't it? Hang on, let me get the points back up. Like, so the Gaunt Summoner, I don't know if it's changed. No. So, like, was 240 points, and you brought on what was 200 points of models, which gave you a 40.2 cast wizard that moved like redonkulous amounts.
Yeah, so now
That's when it was ridiculous.
Well, they've gone up 100. They've gone up 20. So what are they? 240 now. So you're bringing on 120 points worth of dudes. So
220. So yeah, 110.
Yeah, so you get 310 points, don't you? Because you're getting half of the pinks.
Yeah, and also go on, James. I was just going to say a little side note though, is that they've also changed the summoning that you can do Legions of Chaos Ascendant, so that you can also summon only 5 pinks as well, which is which is a fairly big change, because that's also taken another nerf in that their ability to give a 5-up DPR on top of another 5-up DPR. So you can only give out one. The kind of big thing in that army is the ability to... But you can still do things like give Kadai a 5-up DPR, which is fine. The Pink Horrors themselves a 5-up DPR, which is fine. And I guess Pink Horrors or Horrors themselves inside Eternal Conflagration still get that Rend. You can still have the Fate Master, which hasn't changed points, which allows you to reroll all hits, which is actually pretty big. So it's not the end of the world. I think it's okay. They also changed the... It's not. No, it's not. No, I don't think it is. So, like any of you guys who play Tzeentch, I don't think it's a massive deal. And I think the Gaunt Summoner coming down is a bonus. Also, that Gaunt Summoner wasn't going to be along for very long anyway. Them Sentinels are just going to nuke him in one go in the future. So, like, so the Changeling has.
So 7 frigates will have something to say.
Mate, how you doing?
Let me just teleport 9 inches away from you.
Oh, hold on. Do you fucking fly too? Reroll. The Changeling has gone up points by 20 points, I think, which I don't know why that was an issue, but sure. Now, the big one I think that everyone obviously is excited about is Flamers have gone up by 20 points to 140 points. And that still seems reasonable. Like, I'm okay with that. Like, they're very fragile. It's only 6 wounds in there with a 5-up save, sorry. For 140 points is fine. When I see Salamanders at the same points like that, 140, 160 points, then we'll just be like, that makes that's obviously way better, because 6 wounds with a 5-up save is definitely as good as the 9 plus. What is it? Is there 6 handlers for the Salamanders?
3 per one, right? So 9 handlers, 3 sallies.
So 18 wounds with a 4-up save. So 18 wounds with a 4-up save. So they're going to be at least this 140 point when we get to Seraphon. Probably more, maybe 160, right? Otherwise that would seem off, and that would be weird.
I feel like you know already.
Are you leading us down a garden path or something?
Yeah, I feel like this is when he first got me on the show, and he was like, "Just follow me. Just follow me upstairs here. Come on, just this way. I've got some candy. Come on."
I've just been for a swim. Follow me now.
It's okay, it's vegetarian.
So this is straight up only nerfs to Tzeentch. Nothing came down. Some things that would have been fun to see come down would have been Skyfires, and if you know my storied history of Skyfires, even 190, even a 10-point change, but maybe 180 would have been a thing. That couldn't, made some parity with the Zangor on discs. So yeah, I mean, I still think there's lots and lots of builds inside the Tzeentch book. Obviously, there's the Mortals build as well around Acolytes, and so there's a bunch of stuff here. But what's nice is they didn't hammer the demon element too much, so that people who've taken some demons, so it's been a bit more gentle than it needed to be. Not that it needed to be, and they got rid of the obvious gross thing inside the Gaunt Summoner, which I think is a huge positive. So it's it makes the army less competitive, so it's a fail, but that's good because it makes other armies more competitive. So I think generally that's a positive change. And internal parity, they've done nothing to fix that at all. So that's my review. You guys?
Yeah, I don't think there's anything in there, is there? Like, I don't think the 20 points on like the 2 best units that we saw all the time from that book are going to make people think otherwise about taking it. I still think the Gaunt Summoner, like, even though he's bringing on 5, Like, even then, 130 points wouldn't you have summoned for a 2-cast wizard that moves 16 off the top of my head? Like, still be taking that. So I think it'll make it slightly less competitive, won't it? I think, or slightly less strong, but it doesn't hurt. A bit of a shame that we won't. I still think it's such a shame that we won't say acolytes. Bloody, just love those models. But other than that, yeah, fine.
There's some good
pretty
acolyte builds you can do. You have to then
You never
paint
see 'em
90.
though, do
You
you?
have to paint 90 of those bodies. I don't know. I just think paint. Listen, some days I look at you three and some guys on the Twitch chat, and I question things in my life. I think painting 90 ripped, like husky men for the best part of a few months might turn me all sorts of odd. James, obviously.
Would you like to paint some Marauders? Because they are sexy too.
Or for me, it was painting ogre flesh because I was like, "Ooh, yeah, big rippling old muscles and highlighting nipples." That was great.
Sorry, I was just going to say. Also, you can't forget the change. Any direct effect to demons, positive or negative, also changes Legion of Chaos Ascendant as well. And so the Gaunt Summoner, who was a demon and could summon in Legion of Chaos Ascendant, now isn't quite as potent. But it was pretty bullshit summoning 10 pink horrors every turn. So I think that's only really a good thing to the health of the game. Dan, sorry, you were going to say something?
I was just going to say, I can't. Zangor Jack in the chat pointed out that like the standard change host build has gone up by about 140 points. So for me, that might then put it a little bit more into an okay spot, just because now we might see a little bit more versatility out of it. But I think exactly like we said before, I don't think it's going to change people's builds or people's attitudes. It's still going to be roughly the same.
Right, okay, next up, Slaves to Darkness. They've had an errata. So they've had, can you explain what happens if more than one player uses the Dark Prophecy command ability at the start of their hero phase in the same battle round? This is the player's roll off to determine who takes the turn in the next battle round as order. So this is Archeon's special ability at the start. So they just FAQ'd that as if we couldn't work that out ourselves, so that's good. Can Archeon be affected by the Aura of Chaos battle trait from Slaves to Darkness heroes that have different marks of chaos? The answer is no. I didn't know if that was in effect beforehand, but that's actually a big change, I think, if people were able to do that previously. So with the auras that you could do in Slaves to Darkness, is you get, like, if you're within X of a hero, you get a bonus, and obviously Archeon was in range of all of his own keywords, if that makes sense.
Oh, yeah.
So I actually think that that's a good change because it was clearly an unintended thing, which is kind of weird. You know, they do Slaves to Darkness, they have Archeon, they're like, he has all the keywords, and then they go, well, make it so that everyone can utilize those keywords, and you're like, it's kind of the flagship model of the range. Don't know how you missed it, but fine. That's fine. But I think Archeon the Three-Eyed King is in the chat, and he is really upset about it. He says, I'm still 800 points already. It's nice to see you here, the Ever-Chosen. I'm glad you're here as well. But he can, yes, Owen is correct. He can, though, because this hasn't been FAQ'd, you could have Archeon in a Khorne army, and then you could ally in a different Chaos Guard and still use those abilities on him, if that makes sense. So it's only Archeon in Slaves to Darkness where he can't do that. Does that make sense for everyone? Nath?
Yes.
Yeah, sneaky fucker.
Yeah, good. Okay, and then if Be'lakor is slain before I reveal the enemy unit I picked with the Dark Master ability, which is the ability to ignore stuff, or to make them roll a 5 up to be able to do actions. So it's a really good one. And Be'lakor's my number one pick for Chaos right now. You start a list with Be'lakor and then you move on. Can I still reveal the unit even though Be'lakor is not on the battlefield? Yes, which is great. I think. Yeah. Because you need something that can shut down the mega units. So your Teclis, Nagash, even your Archeon. There needs to be some internal, even if it's just meta counterplay, that somewhere in the world there's something that can just go, maybe you can't perform as well this game. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay.
Those people that put all their eggs in one basket and then play against Be'lakor, will be feeling a little bit twitchy for a while.
Grinaldi's said it's still in the description of the ability. Why even FAQ it? Some people are special, I think. And Owen has also pointed out, and something to never forget, is that you can't target units with the ability that start off the board. So Voltronus is a good example of one. But can't wait for those Eels points changes coming up soon. Looking forward to reading those.
2024, isn't it?
Next edition, I hear.
Yeah, next book.
Right, so Slaves to Darkness, they had an errata. Obviously, the Gaunt Summoner we've already seen, but they have also had points changes, so that's exciting. That's exciting. Chaos Marauders have gone up only days after the GHB by another 10 points, James. 160 points for 40. No, for 20.
So sad.
So previously you were able to get the... What were they before? Sorry. They won 40, weren't they? Yeah.
Yeah.
Were they? They've...
No, 150. 300 points for... 300 points for 40. They're still cheap.
They only went up 10 points. Is this the same
that's
change?
all they needed. They're not strong enough.
That is not okay. That's 300. Blackguard is just there, like, looking at Marauders like, what the fuck, man? I'm an elf.
Like, everyone else in that book is like, those guys are ripped. And there's loads of them. And then they all go to combat, and the chosen warriors of chaos don't do anything. 2 Marauders clear the board.
There's a human in plate metal with a fantastic pair of pantaloons carrying a great sword, forged in fires themselves, coming up against a guy with a wooden shield and a honky axe, and he's just like, uh-oh, like, I hope I win this, and the answer is the great swords will not win that fight any day.
He's ripped, though. Like, every Marauder has never not been at the gym. So all they do is gym all day, take a load of steroids, then go to battle, then back to the gym.
So what you're saying is...
I'd love to see, like in the reality of it, right? Like, let's say you were a soldier on the ground and you saw, like, the warriors of chaos coming towards you. Everyone would be like, yeah, all right, let's do this. And then they see the bunch of shirtless blokes running at them. They're like, oh, crap, no, quickly, retarget the guns. The warriors are like, why do they never shoot at us? And they're like, James, you know what?
Chaos Warriors, though, they dropped by 10 points. So now...
Still not taking them.
Yeah.
Well, do you know what though? If you're talking about just for a direct comparison for a moment, like that's 90 points for 5, but that is 10 wounds with a 4-up armor save, and they do also have Chaos Rune Shields as well, don't they? So they ignore spells on a 5+, and that's a lot of value for 90 points. Like, you know, when you start talking, the problem is their output. I don't think the survivability is necessarily the output, but when you start talking about 180 points to put 20 wounds on an objective, and they can ignore spells. It's a thing, right?
I think the problem is, for me, so I still think the problem with Chaos Warriors is, like, they're good at standing there, but nothing else. So the problem is that, so let's say, what did you say? 180 points for 10.
Yeah.
And I stick them on an objective, and then someone charges 20 skinks into them, so they claim the objective, and that's turn 2. And then turns 3, 4, and 5, probably 1 skink dies, and no Chaos Warriors, and they still win the point.
Yeah, there's an inherent buff in this game for having more bodies, right?
Yeah.
Like it's a really interesting conversation that's been going on in the 40k community at the minute, obviously with the new 9th edition, in that they've put like a base cap of like 5 points per wound on some units like cultists and other stuff, because they've clearly identified that they basically bottomed the game out and they couldn't make stuff any cheaper, right? Now, obviously, we're not in this situation here. We're just talking about the things that are cheap have way good rules. It's the problem. But it's an interesting conversation to have. I also really do wonder if the coherency rules that we see in 9th edition 40k are going to translate to Age Sigmar, and how that might affect next year, and how that might affect our hordes at that point. But right now, Marauders players and people with 120 Marauders are still super happy. Like, you know...
Who's got that many? Whew. What an idiot.
You are an idiot. That is too many naked dudes to paint.
2 weeks. 140. 2 weeks.
I
Done.
bet they look brilliant.
Why?
I'm so sorry.
I am so offended.
So other changes, the Chaos Lord and Karkadrak came down some points from 250 to 230, which is good because he can be taken as a beat stick, which is decent. And then the Chaos Knights have changed to 160, which someone in the chat is going to have to help me out. I think that's actually up 10 points from 150, but I'm not sure. But you can make Chaos Knights pretty scary. Obviously, with the War Shrine, you can reroll to hit, reroll to wound. The War Shrine
They
has
were 180 before.
Whoa!
Down 20.
What the Knights were?
Yeah.
That's amazing. That's actually really good then, because that's 15 wounds with a 4-up save on the Knights. Also, as the guys were pointing out, the Warrior Shields ignore mortal wounds, not spells, so I'm sorry about that, but that's still good.
I don't know. Maybe like the Knights. It's a cool idea, and I still really like the Knights, and I think you can make them good. But I'd still take the 20 Marauders.
Well, 40 Marauders for the it's a direct comparison. It's 320 points between 40 Marauders, which is 40 wounds with a 5-up save, or it's 30 wounds on the Knights. With obviously, I would say they're faster, but they're not. Their base movement is faster, but obviously Marauders can charge a billion inches.
The Marauders just have like so much utility built into that War Scroll, and like the fact that so they're like hitting on 3s, wounding on 4s, 2 attacks each, -1 when they're at full. Like, I think I had 40, and like if you can put the spell from the book in where they're rerolling everything, it's just that horrific thing. Like I think I had 20 of a 40 block go through 9 Blight Kings in a turn.
Yeah,
fucking hell.
I think these are some okay changes. Marauders have gone up 10 points as well, and the Varangard have dropped. Yeah, baby, the Varangard have dropped by 20 points, which is really fun because I ran for a week the Knights of the Empty Throne list, which was super fun to play. They've got a really fun command ability. They're still they're getting closer, you know. Like at 300 points, I didn't mind taking the Varangard because they compile in attack twice, once per battle. You can. They're not terrible. They're not terrible. So actually, they're more and more. They're looking better and better. I think the Varangard. But unfortunately, you have to compare them to Knights. I think, and then the Darkfire Demon Rift also went up by 20 points, so it's still 80 points as well. Which was negative because of all those elves, because obviously everyone wanted to throw the Demon Rift into the elves. Well, that's what I wanted to do anyway.
that would rinse an elf army, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, they would have a fun time there. Whew.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. Well, so I think that's a positive for the elves, but I mean, would they even ever get that spell off against Teclis? Probably not.
No.
Yeah.
But that one time they do. Fuck me.
Yeah. Yeah.
Teclis will be shitting his pants.
Well, no.
It'd be like,
No, because that one time they do.
Children.
Because that one time they do, they also ignore all spells on a 4-up because they're in range of Teclis. So, like, it's not really necessary, I don't think. Maybe it was just because of like there were some decent Saves to Darkness builds. I think that there are some very like techie.
Probably the Zine builds, to be honest, because Zine using that thing was pretty horrific.
It was. It was a good counterpuncher for the Zine builds. So overall, you guys, what do you guys make of this changes? Twitch chat and you guys, pass, fail. What are your thoughts? Would you like to have seen anything else change points?
I don't know. I think the Knights sound quite tempting now at those points. I think it sounds good for the slaves.
Okay.
Hopefully we'll see some more variety in the lists and stuff.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I played when I played the game on the weekend against that Slaves to Darkness. He had a Kakadrak guy and some Knights. They were pretty tasty. And he also did have a block of Marauders that went down to Mournfang. So I don't know what you guys are on about, but there you go.
I guess it's who gets the charge off. I think. Dan, you got any thoughts?
I like it. I don't think it makes a huge difference, like massively. I think, but the one thing I would say is there could have been a couple of other points drops to things that you're just not going to see, like the Ogroids and stuff. They've got all these beautiful, wonderful new models they're awesome models. They've got so much going on, like rules wise, but you will never see them on the board. And if you had dropped the points on them a little bit, suddenly we might be seeing like the Ogroid, Myrmidon and stuff like that, and Dark Oath Chieftains and War Queens. But at 90 points, they're still not great for that.
No.
So I think they've targeted the people that are like waving the flag the most, like the units that definitely need it. But because the others were drawing all the attention to them, they then ignored 99% of the rest of this list.
Yes. Yeah, I agree with you. Absolutely.
I guess it's a big book, isn't it? So, sorry, it's quite a big book, isn't it? And there's a lot that hasn't been filled with, which could do with a bit of fiddling.
Yeah, I think also like it would have been nice to have seen some of those techie units, like Dan was saying. If you'd have changed the Ogroid, or if you'd have changed things like the Furies a little bit, the Spheranx, maybe just drop them down. Like even the Spheranx, whose ability is like meh, make it like 70 points. Just make it like a cool it's a single model. So like always when you ask yourself, am I putting a single model in the list? It has to be decent enough that it's going in there because it does something else to the blocks who are going to win objectives. So just bring them down enough that you can play around with it. But I think I'm in this really odd place with the Slaves of Darkness book because Marauders are great. Like they are great. But then you got to ask yourself, like, what do I want Warriors to be? Because do you want them to be awesome? In which case you'll have so few, a bit like Varangard, you have so few that maybe they're not. Do you know what I'm trying to say? Like I feel like they needed to buff up Warriors and Chosen, but I don't know. It's a weird book. It's
just badly pointed. Like there's just so much in the book that isn't like that you never see, and like I think at the current War Scroll you could have made Chaos Warriors 70 points and we'd have seen some on the table, but they still wouldn't have done a huge amount. Because even if you were like, oh, they're really cheap now, I'm just going to take them in blocks of 30, they just do nothing.
No, I kind of want Warriors to be like Hearthguard Berserkers. You're just like, oh, if I go near them, they're going to just make me fuck off. Like, do you know what I mean? When you're fighting a block of Hearthguard Berserkers, you're like, I best kill those fucks. Otherwise, they're just going to like push me like straight back off the objective. And I feel like that's what Warriors should be. You could just take the stat line from Hearthguards, just give them to Warriors, I think. I know it's the other things that make Hearthguard good. The ability to strike first, the ability to pile and attack twice is a thing. I also like that they maybe could have translated the Varangard ability, you know, that pile and attack twice. Thanks for subscribing, Furzen, by the way. That pile and attack twice ability once per game. Maybe they could have sprinkled that amongst the more elite units to kind of give you some tactical depth. A bit like
just looking at this, I almost feel like at this point, and I know I can see people talking about stuff in chat, so if I've stolen this idea, because I don't think I have, but I almost like looking at that point, like Marauders don't have the best save. I almost feel like 90 points, you almost just want to screen Marauders with Chaos Warriors because they're gonna make the charge. So you're just like, right, these Chaos Warriors are standing like 3 inches from you. You're gonna have to charge them because these Marauders are like far away. And then now it's my turn. These Marauders are moving their full 6, and they need like a 6 to charge. But sucks to be you because I'm always getting it.
Yeah. Well, so I think overall this makes the book still as good as it was, basically. And then I also think maybe they've added to the diversity in making the knights cheaper. But knights are also already a thing you're going to take anyway. I think it's a fail on the diversity, like the internal balance, because there are so many units that they've missed that just aren't in there, right? And actually
should have made a Gorbeast Chariot 10 points.
Listen.
Seen any.
Can I just say the Chariot build, big love to Ellis the Menace on the Chariot build. I'd have loved to have seen the Chariots come down more, just so we had more Chariots. Because the guy that wants to run 11 Chariots needs to play the guy that wants to run 7 frigates.
That's going to be so well balanced.
Also, no one's paying 100 points for Furies. I know these are Warcry units, but like some of those monsters are just so ridiculously pointed.
I also heard that Fast and Furious 11, the film franchise, is actually KO boats versus Gorby's chariots. They just in
Love me a
space.
gore beast.
Yeah. All right. So we'll move on for them. I have. So Wrath of the Everchosen. If I roll Unleash Power on the behavior table for one random spell, is that spell removed from the battlefield? The answer is yes. And can the Shadow Legion command ability return slain Legion of the First Prince models to units such as Seeker Chariots, Skull Cannons, and Plague Drones? The answer is yes. So there's an ability to return D3, so it's a command ability, D3 units to Plague Bearer units, what are they called? So Plague Bearer units, Bloodletter units. Now, a Skull Cannon has the Bloodletter keyword. Plague Drones have the Plague Bearer keyword. So some people were saying that you could return potentially D3 Plague Drones or Skull Cannons into a unit. And the answer is yes, you can. So that is Bellacor's specific subfaction command ability. So you can do some fun stuff with that.
Oh.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah. Never even heard of it before. Sounds cool, though. Yeah.
It's a commander. So if you take Wrath of the Everchosen, then you take Legion of Chaos Ascendant, and then there's a subfaction for Legion of Chaos Ascendant. Yeah.
Legion of the First Prince. Or
Legion
whatever.
of the First Prince, where Be'lakor has to be a general, but there's a command ability that you have, which is able to so you can return D3 Seeker Chariots as well, which is kind of fun. Whether or not
that'd
you
be
would want
kind of
to.
messed up.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
you'd also be messed up enough to have had built multiple Seeker Chariots.
So that's the Wrath of the Everchosen, which is good. It was just a clarity, not a change. And then also Wrath of the Everchosen, obviously they've changed Tzeentch heroes, so obviously you can summon 5 horrors, which is a massive nerf to Legion of the Chaos Ascendant, because obviously people were summoning 10 horrors a turn. So a big change there for those guys. But I think we all saw that coming. I think that seems really fair.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Really fair.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
All right, Nathan.
Yeah, man.
Dear and near to your heart, the Uruk war clans have had some points changes.
Yes.
Yeah. So
I have, yeah.
So the Maniac Weird Knob has gone up or down points? It's 140. I can't admit to knowing all the points for these guys.
Bone Splitter's side I'm a bit weaker on, and I think that's where all the points change. I think the Weird Knob went up, and then everything else gone down. But no, I'm not 100% sure. Sorry.
Up, yeah, it went up. I think
Yeah.
the changes. I think the change we're seeing on that Weird Knob is specifically in relation to Big War, because a lot of people, especially when this stuff would have been thought about, which was in the lucid dreams of a maniac, time near October, the Big War was kicking asses all over the place, and it's still a really, really good build. So that's why the Weird Knob went up. The Mega Boss has gone to 140 though, so I think that points have gone down.
Yeah, that's 10-point drop, I think.
Yeah.
Sounds about right. Yeah. You hardly ever saw that guy. You probably won't see him that often anyway. So yeah.
He's still too expensive.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, definitely. And then the Weird Knob Shaman is now 120. So
he's gone up 10 points as well.
For the same reason, do you think? Or can you think of a reason why?
Yeah, I mean, he was pretty good, so it's probably fair, I guess. I mean, it's only 10 points, so I don't think it matters too much either one way or the other. You probably only had one. I think I fielded a couple of lists too. So, yeah, 10 points here or there doesn't really matter.
Okay. Uruk, Weird Knob Shaman, yeah, we've done that. So Savage Big Boss is now 90 points. I think he was 80 points before, so a 10-point increase. And I think that is because, obviously, as we said, I think it's trying to hit that ruck inside the Big War, potentially.
He's part of the Cunning Ruck, so... Yeah, sure. Again, it's not that big a points.
Nope.
Anything to worry about.
Okay. Before we go on, we've just had a subscription in the chat from chat from Shamshale. Thank you. And he said, "Will you read my question?" I'm like, "Well, if you've subscribed, I can't not read your question, can I? That stuff seems fair." World of Warcraft dev did an interview about game balance. He said, "When something is too good, they don't try to make it average. They balance it so that it's still probably the best, but just to give more room for the suboptimal choices to feel like less of a waste of time." Do you feel like this approach? Do you like this approach? Do you think Twitch thinks this way too, and that's why the adjustments are so small? Question for you three. What do you think? And Twitch chat, I guess.
I actually like it as a concept. However, sometimes you have builds or you have elements of the game that just take everything else to town and kick the ever living daylights out of it.
Mm-hmm.
And comparatively, that's when you do need to kind of nerf it and bring it down. But I think in this game, if you were to do that, you'd constantly be dropping points heartily, and like it'd just be jumping around. I like it as a concept, but I think like when you had Slanesh with all of their like locuses and all of that shit constantly going off, that was a situation where you needed to nerf the overpowered elements because they were just far and away the best. But that's my TED talk.
It's also very different. I mean, I know on something like World of Warcraft, it does take a long time to re-roll into a different character and upgrade all of their stats and stuff, and chase gear and get on that wheel. But there's something also very different, which we've talked about on the show before when we talk about internal balance, because internal balance can be thrown off quite heartily in some cases. Like we're all joking right now about collecting 7 frigates, which someone is going to go out and get 7 frigates, which is great, but in maybe 2 years' time, when someone's like, "That was a mistake that we did that," so like, there's an argument that like there needs to be some sort of conversation about I want to collect a balanced army. Like I would like to buy all of the KO. As an example, I'd like to buy all of the bits, and all of them have some sort of viability on the tabletop. But when you have certain model ranges, like Dan brought up Slanesh, and what they're doing is they're actually making it so whole model ranges can't even play. It's not like Slanesh were just up against Uruks, and they were like, this is fine, and the Uruk guy was like, no, and it's like, oh, why don't you take something better in the Uruk book to fight the Slanesh? And they're like, dude, it's just all orcs that punch things. That's all I got. Like I got no other skills. Yeah, but then they got a book, and that did help out quite a bit. So. I think it's a very different. I think it's quite a unique environment when it's based on physical collections, even more so than something like Magic the Gathering, because you can just buy new cards. Although I know Magic armies are very expensive. Decks.
I think like as much as there's parables between like tabletop and like computer gaming as well, there's also vast swathes of differences, right? So the data that Blizzard hold on all the stuff that's going on in WoW is internal, and they just pull that data. So all the game content is theirs. They're hosting everything that happens about it. So they're pulling that data. They get that data, and they can instantly fix and balance it. Like what we have here is like if they make your army no good. So I know like the last round of KO changes, whenever it was before this book, when people were like, I've just brought this whole brand new army and now it's rubbish, is like, oh, I've just invested, I don't know, 500 quid and I've built it and I've painted it, so I've probably invested like 6 weeks. I just think the balancing concept's so different, isn't it? I guess, without trying to go on a tangent.
Yeah, but the idea is good.
The idea is good. I just don't know how you make it work.
It's pretty similar to what you were describing has happened in the Zine book, in that the horrors have been hit, but they've only been hit a little bit. They've not been absolutely smashed out of the water. And I think that's good, because people will still have to have a powerful thing in Zine. You can't just take away their powerful thing and say, well, make the other stuff do more work. It's not going to happen. So, it's good that you can do it with some restraint, I think, like some of the nerfs. Sometimes they go a bit over the top, and then you've proper ripped the heart out of the book. But if you can do it with a bit more restraint, then
I think also
what they're talking about there a bit is a good idea.
Also, I think Nate's point is on the track, but that James, as to you, when you're talking about WoW as well, obviously when they're taking that internal stats, like the Honest Wargamer stats, but mainly the stats done by LLV for Age Sigmar, they actively pushed against in several different ways. Previously, they were like, "Nah, we're not listening to those stats." It's like you had all different groups and public voices like rallying against the stats as if the stats were somehow evil. They were like, "They're showing that Sinesh is broken. That can't be accurate. You guys are fibbing." It's like, that's the fucking numbers. Like,
Yeah, I think yeah. So I think my point was, I think like in a game it's internal, isn't it? So they're just pulling that data probably continually, whereas in Warhammer it requires, so like this year it requires like an event to happen and that data to be pulled, and not me because I'm not doing it, but the very dedicated people like I know you and LLV will sit for hours and kind of pour through the stats. Like that's
LLV, yeah, not me.
okay.
I'm just there for the voice.
Cool.
Yeah.
But just hours of time and dedication.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just it's a different environment, I think, isn't it? In some ways, but the concept's really cool. I like the concept.
So
it would also mean that people's toys were always kind of viable.
Yeah, because just to read out some great comments that we've had in the chat, so I need to read them out. Varble says, game design balance is very different for PvE video game than PvP war game. Suboptimal in WoW just means you don't kill the boss as fast. Suboptimal in Warhammer means you lose. Like, you know, and then Draconda says, there's a great YouTube video by the Game Maker's Toolkit, a channel about game design. They made an awesome video about game balance in general, which I would love to go and watch. So I'm just telling you all about that. I'll tell you next time. Anyway, great question. Yeah, okay. I'll get on with these points drops. So you guys were talking about Uruks. So we were. So Brutes are down by 10 points. Thank you, Rambo Squirrel. So I get 100 points back in my list, and I get a free Weird Knob Shaman. Thanks, Games Workshop. So Nath, Brute's down 10 points. Happy with that?
Yeah, I am happy with that. I mean, I took Brutes anyway in my lists. I rated them, and so if they've dropped 10 points, that's great because yeah, that'll make up for some of those other points rises. But I think the big one's coming up, isn't it?
Ard Boys.
Yeah.
100 points for 5. So is that an increase of 10 or 20?
10 points up. So, I mean, you were just talking about Warriors of Chaos. So these guys, I guess, are the equivalent, the Auric equivalent of Warriors.
Yes.
2 wound models with a 4-up save. So, yeah, and I think it's fair in this case, definitely. The Ard Boys, you saw loads of them everywhere, and they're a proper threat. So yeah, they've just got loads of nice rules on their war scroll, and then they combine really nicely with the rules that that people have in their allegiance abilities. Not only the Iron Jaws ones, but also in the Big War, so they just slot nicely into the book, work nicely together. So, yeah, I don't think many people complain that they've gone up that 10 points.
Yeah, no, I think that feels about right as well, to be honest. And I think also it's that kind of conversation like you were talking about, like with Warriors, and bringing those Brutes down a little bit so they have a place. Is those kind of it's when units like this are in that range where 10 points are going to make a difference, and not Eidolons. But still excited to see those Eidolon changes coming up soon. I imagine Eels up, Eidolons down. Can't wait to see it. Can't wait to see it. Because there's no way they would keep Eels the same for 2 years, even when they clearly have been awful as an experience to play against. I don't know why they'd do that. That'd be silly. So I'm glad it's been changed this time around. So my question is to you guys, Uruk. So the Uruks, how do you feel about it? I feel like they've hit the competitive build. So I feel like that they are, and also you can't forget also. The Rogue Idol went up 20 points as well. So I actually think that they've made the Uruks less competitive, is my general thoughts. What do you guys think?
Well, yeah, they've taken away the big part of the competitive build was obviously the Ard Boys, so they've them going up, and then also the Weird Knob, both the Weird Knobs, the Maniac and the the Iron Jaws one. So stuff is more expensive. So you might need to. You might go into the battle with a few less Ard boys, unless you took brutes anyway. In which case, happy days, because it probably balances out. And I think brutes are a worthy shout. Maybe people are going to find out just how good brutes are, and then it'll just be more happy days for the WAR.
Yeah. Okay. All right. James, Dan, you got any thoughts?
They obviously didn't hit the big one, which is the big stabbers. If they were serious about it, they would have obviously raised the points on big stabbers, because they are just overpowered to the nth degree. Or they would have dropped them to 60 points, because big stabbers are the most orky unit in all the book. I like it. I don't think they needed to do much with it. Honestly, it was just a tiny little tweak here or there. I think it'll make some armies more fun to play against, and it probably will gently nudge people away from the most obvious build in Big War, which I'm all about.
I need to answer a question in the chat, because it's a good one, from Mark. So thanks, Mark, for the question. Any of you dudes know which points do we follow now for the Rogue Idol and the Warp Nor Vermin Lord? The Forge World Update PDF released after the GHB has 400 and 200 respectively. Yeah. But the GHB has them at 400, and so which one do you follow? Now, previously there was an FAQ that the most recent publication is the publication that you follow. I think that is still in effect, but that was a clarity. That was clarity on the last GHB and might not still exist. So I think we could just make it simple. I think it's the most recent Forge World update, which will put the Rogue Idol back at 400.
Until they FAQ the FAQ and then sort it out, because it's obviously intended the other way around, maybe or maybe not.
It's interesting though, right? Because Forge World always pointed their own models, and obviously don't so much now. But the fact that two points can come out for the same model within like 2 days of each other and be different is promising.
Well, why don't we?
What is it promising? What sort of promise is that?
Well, because Dan is the
one, Nathan.
yeah. Well, because Dan is the guest, and I think we could just sort this out real quick. Dan, you get to choose. Do you want it to be 400 or 420?
I want it to be more, because I hate greenskins with a fiery passion. However, I like justice, and justice to like the rules and the laws that we work by are that the most recent is what it is. Now, maybe that's because uploading a PDF to the internet is hard, obviously very, very hard to do. So it took them a little bit longer.
Wait, hold on. Wait, Nathan, are you the guy who uploads the PDFs? Nathan!
Not really a plasterer. just uploaded a PDF.
To the PC computer machine. No, fuck that.
Well, he was late today.
Sorry, Dan, I didn't mean to cut you off. I'm so sorry.
No, that would make complete sense. That's probably also why Azir hasn't been updated. But yeah, given how hard it was to update that PDF and release it, it's obviously come out after the GHB, which means that the official thing is that it's the PDF version.
There we go. Everyone, if you're having a tournament, playing a game, the Honest Wargamer sanctions it being the PDF version. And if you don't like it, whatever. Just deal with it. Okay, so Uruks, probably about the same competitive, but maybe a little bit less. And there we go. Okay, good. And then, is there anything in Uruks that didn't really get taken? I think it's all pretty much, it all was a bit viable, right? So it's got some pretty good internal parity.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, you didn't often see that mega boss on foot. I doubt you will see him anymore now. That 10 points there doesn't really make any difference. But yeah, the rest of the stuff's pretty good. The Bone Splitter stuff I'm less sure on, but I think the Maniac Weird Knob was pretty much a good steal at the points that he was before. So both the Wizards were pretty sweet. So
yeah, so actually that's a good point. The guys in the chat, Nathan, the loss of the realm artifacts in Ethereal, do you feel like that affects the Maw Crusher? Also, you don't tend to see Godrak very much, right?
Yeah, you don't see Godrak very much. You might see him more now because the realm artifacts aren't so much of a thing. But then, I guess if you took a Maw Crusher, you probably went in Iron Suns, in which case you had to take their artifact anyway. So I don't know if that was that much of a thing.
He technically wouldn't. Gordrak, is that his name? What's his name? The name Gordrak. He'd be super strong against Lumineth, right? As well, because one of his axes is against wizards, and everyone's a wizard.
Oh yeah.
So there might be some builds in there.
And also because they're elves and they're fucking soft as butter. But yeah,
that's why all mine are dead. I feel like I constantly need to excuse my shame every time they're brought up. I'm like, yeah, I also hate them, even though I like them.
Okay, I am excited. Battletome Wargamer tribes. I am hype. I can't wait to see lead belchers go down. Iron blasters go down. We're going to see maybe some rules FAQ for man-eaters to make them like a thing.
Make them crunchy and lovely. That's what give me man-eaters back. I have all of them.
Oh my god!
Lead belchers go down. They're great as they are.
Yeah, I know, but just, if you're making sweeping changes just because you don't really understand stuff, which Games Workshop does, then you definitely do lead belchers, right? So, looking at the rules changes, Nobbler Scrap Launcher has got an extra attack on the attack profile, which is good. And then...
can I just say super quickly, that does make sense because the Rhinox has 2 horns, but he only had 1 attack. So how he only just poked you with one side of his face at a time never made sense to me.
He can only go left to right or right to left, not both.
Yeah, he's like Zoolander.
Yeah.
Right, okay. And then the Icebrow Hunter. Okay, they haven't seemed to have done any extra rules for the units, but don't worry. It's going to be in the points, I reckon. In addition, this model's Great Thrown Spear has a damage characteristic of D6 instead of D3 if it ran, it's fine. Okay, big points changes. Here we go. Iron Blaster, still the same points. Bit disappointing, not going to lie. Nobbler Scrap Launcher, still the same points. Also quite sad.
He's just gained an extra attack.
That's true. That's a good point. I hadn't thought about that.
In hand to hand.
Isn't he a shooting unit? I'm really confused.
It's a piece of artillery. It's even it's artillery.
What are you talking about? He's the heart and soul punch of the army now that he's got 2 poke attacks.
Feel the wrath of my 2 attacks when I can't shoot you with what I brought to the battlefield.
Yeah, that's a right. Okay, all right, fine. Stonehorn Beast Riders still 300 points. That's fine. I agree with that. So the Thunder Tusk Beast Riders. Oh, good. So they're functionally useless in the game because they don't do anything. And so they've gone down some points. No rules changes. So, yeah. What are you guys got any thoughts about that? Yay or nay?
Who cares? You're not running them anyway.
It's whatever.
Yeah, Desert Sketch.
Their problem is its War Scroll problem as opposed to a points problem. I guess if they were like 10 points, you might see them play. But, yeah.
They also take up behemoth slots, don't forget, which is an issue.
Yeah, maybe not then. Yeah.
Also,
you probably wouldn't see them.
For 30 points more, you can have a hero. So why? And when you don't have that many points to spread around all of the different gigantic beasts in your army, why the hell would you choose a basic bitch battle line team when you can have a hero?
Well, so there is a build in the chat. Lee Bromley saying 2 Huskord on Stonehorns, 5 Beast Rider Thunder Tusks. You'd be doing 7 Blood Vultures every turn, which is 7 mortal wounds to a character every turn. There's a thing. So if you make them cheap enough, you could just spam the shooting attack on it as opposed to the rest of the monster.
You're building a
however many
whole army to kill a 7-wound dude a turn.
I'd really like to see Lee just model 5 vultures on a base that size, just on a perch. It's just like, do you know what? I won't do the other attacks. I'm just going to do this.
You said it now.
Shoot your snowball at me.
Each turn, you just take a vulture off. Right, he's gone. Turn, he's gone. He's done his thing.
Right, so the Frostlord on Thunder Tusk and also the Huskard on Thunder Tusk have also gone down points. But as stated, we obviously That's fine. So then we're not overly bothered about that. The Firebelly hasn't got any points. Hold on, no problem. Let me just find it. The Yetis haven't also. Iron Guts haven't gone down any points. That's fine. They're pretty good. Lead Belchers are not any cheaper. Okay. Man-Eaters are still not any cheaper. Okay. So no changes, actually.
Nice.
In the More Tribes one. So, okay. What do you guys think of that? That's not what I was expecting. I was kind of...
Yeah, I think they could have probably done with a bit of love compared to the new books that have come out, especially. They are still a great book to play with, and again,
really fun.
Yeah. But yeah, you could maybe have given them a bit more juice in the tank, maybe.
Okay, so they've done 0 for the... So this is a pass. I'm going to give this a fail. They've done nothing to make this army more competitive, and they've done nothing to affect the internal balance of the book. So, fail. Anyone got any other thoughts? Go on, Dan.
Well, I was just going to say, when you do a fart and it sits in your pants really hot and you're like, did I fart or did I do something else? And then you realize that, like, maybe you're in an elevator and it stops a level before where you're going and you realize somebody else is getting in and you're like, I'm sitting in this terrible, terrible space where either I've done something really bad or,
this hot box,
or I'm going to get away with it. I feel like that is the change to this. Someone was like, I'm pretty sure I've fucked this up, but maybe no one's going to notice. And then as soon as we got into the elevator, we smelt the change and we were like, oh God, like anyone with 2 cents could have known this was a bad idea. And that's me. It's a hot, concerned fart on the chain.
That might be rolling down your leg.
Wow.
Yeah.
Exactly. And now we can all smell that shame.
Right, so everyone in the chat is saying I'm too optimistic, but I'm not. Listen, they're going to mess one up, and if they're going to mess one up, it is going to become, at this point, the meme army. Like, they called them deadly as ever. Like, I think that the Ogres is kind of a joke book that Games Workshop kind of bully people with. It's also really cheap to get into. You buy, like, 3 start collecting boxes, so Games Workshop don't care about you as customers. They're like, whatever. So they're fine. And they also don't want to make any more Finecast dudes in the man-eaters, so of course they don't affect that. So still loads of hope for those big croak nerfs coming in. The eel points changes, obviously. Looking forward to those sometime soon. So Ogre Tribes, fail all over the place. But at least that gives our good friend Haywo Twitch lots to complain about.
Yes.
And that man could complain as an art form. Like... Right, so next up, Ossiarch Bone Reapers. Oh dear. A incredibly tanky combat army which struggled against shooting. So hopefully they've done something to make it so that maybe their combat efficiency is kind of like medium, like as it was, and then give them some tools against shooting. That would be nice. And so they have... Okay.
And also make more than 1 page of their army book readable. Because at the moment, like, you get to... It's Army Book Petrifex Elite, right? You get to that page and you're like, I'm not going anywhere else.
And this is where I'll stay.
Yeah, and that's why I love when Feast of Bones came out. You saw, or at least over here, in all the buy, swap, sell groups and whatnot, everybody was buying up all of the ogres they could get their hands on, but everyone was selling off pretty much everything except for those lovely little units of Mortek Guard, because they were like, oh, I don't want any of this. I just want 90 Mortek Guard.
Yeah,
so hopefully they've balanced that, right? Like, hopefully they've fixed that as a thing too.
Yeah, and if anyone remembers, Petrifex Elite, which is the sub-faction that you're able to take, one of the sub-factions that you're able to take, you might not know that, is during CanCon and LVO weekend, which happened at the same time, there were 19 armies at LVO, 18 at CanCon. Of that combined number of 37 armies, 36 were Petrifex Elite, and one of them didn't know how to use War Scroll Builder properly and put the wrong one down. Right, so they've changed it. They've changed the +1 attack. +1 save to everyone in Petrifex Elite down to reroll saves of 1 for attacks made with melee weapons. So not even against shooting in a particular fuck you. Now, this is actually really interesting because this doesn't have a marked effect on a general build for Petrifex. For OC Arcs, because this has a very specific attack in that it attacks Nagash in OC Arcs. Because Nagash in OC Arcs could just be on a 2-up save just straight away. He just has to be inside Petrifex Elite. Whereas if you wanted to just go for the more, Catacross's Legion, whatever it is, Mortisian or Mortasian or whatever it might be.
Praetorians. Yeah.
Praetorians, thank you.
Yeah,
Mortis Praetorians. He is able to give everyone within a certain range +1 save. So you can still do +1 save to your army. You just can't do it on the first turn because he has to activate the ability. So they're more susceptible to alpha strikes, which is cool. But it does affect the Nagash build. So it seems like a big change at first, but actually not that big a change. It just affects one particular build, I think. I don't know if you guys got any other thoughts on that.
Well, the one thing I'll say to that, though, is yes, you can still do that with him, but then I have a way as a player of removing that buff. I think the reason I hated the Petrifex was that you just got it, and I couldn't stop your units from getting it. Yep. Whereas this way, you have a linchpin unit that if I have a way to snipe him or target him out, I can get rid of that ability.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. I agree with you. Go on, Nath.
Petrifex not only had that great rule, obviously +1 save, but it's also got +1 rend is pretty sweet rule. So it's still got that. So now I think it appears more balanced. You're looking at the more attacking Petrifex with their +1 rend, or you're looking at maybe the more defensive ones with Catacross. So, although he gives them +1 a hit as well, doesn't he, or something? So, yeah, it makes it now. It's worth considering more than just the one, obviously. Yeah, Petrifex is still right at having the +1 rend and rerolling ones to save. It's not to be sniffed at. I wouldn't mind any of those.
No, not especially when you look at the point exchange as well. Like, so the Harbingers came down only 10 points. Sorry, the Morghast Harbingers, but the Stalkers came down 20 points, and I love the Stalkers because you can get inside Petrifex. They're obviously a little worse now because they don't have that 3-up save. Not a little worse, lots worse. Sorry, but those guys can get like crazy rend if you want to. I think they get up to -3 rend and do crazy damage. And I like that they're a little bit cheaper as well. So they've done something about the internal balance as well. They've recognised that none of the Morghasts were being taken, nor were the Stalkers. And they've done something about it, which I think is nice, because they also go inside a battalion as well, the Morghast and the Stalkers, which is like a pre-game move battalion. So it's like a low drop, and you could actually potentially like kind of alpha with some scary units, which is kind of fun. But I agree with you, Dan. I think what they've done is they've changed it so that you've got some counterplay as the opponent, and that's actually huge, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Morghast were 210, so they've gone down 20 points. Yeah, 20 points. So that's like there's some good changes on the points going down, and I think the Petrifex Elite build needed to go away. So because Nagash was just awful. I mean, Nagash is all still incredible inside OC Arcs because of the spell that he has, where he just teleports if he takes too much damage, and he just teleports across the other side of the room. So
coward.
Yeah, yeah.
I think the one change that I missed here that I would have liked is more like a change in price of Mortek Guard, not for their by the 10, but by the 40, because 440 points for 40 of them, 110 points each. It's like it's 80 off, and they're a strong unit inside of a strong book. So for me, like even if it had been 60 off, if they'd gone up to 460 or something like that, it might have just made me a little bit happier about when you see blocks of 40 of them.
But they want to sell them.
Yeah, true. Sorry, I wasn't thinking about that.
Yeah.
Well,
come on.
Yeah, but
its finest.
But that would mean that they don't want to sell the other things that you're not buying. So that never really holds water with me. Also,
Shush, Rob.
They also haven't changed. They haven't changed the crawler, and the crawler's still an amazing unit. Like, it's amazing. Like, Khorne would love a crawler. Do you know what I mean? Like there's so many armies that are just like, I wouldn't mind a good old crawler. Like the Uruks that we just talked about. Yeah, they can go duff stuff up really good. But they wouldn't mind just one ranged threat that maybe for one time makes you come to them. Like, just a little bit. And the crawlers are really, 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 really good. Whether they be 2 crawlers, which I think is the general consensus for like a mixed army. It's only 400 points and the ability to delete hordes, kill characters, all sorts. Like, what was that game we saw with JP just like nearly nuke Nagash in a turn?
That's Slaughter,
Sheffield.
yeah.
I mean, it's quite rare, but it was still hilarious, right? Oh yeah, someone's just reminded me. Nighthorn, can't wait to see their points changes. They're going to be good, right? We're gonna like Linda gonna be down. I can't wait. It's gonna be so sweet. Okay, so
and
the
Papa
last.
Also pointing out that given how much attention OBR got, obviously there's going to be a lot of thought put into Sylvaneth as well. Looking forward to that.
Good point. Problem is, everyone, is I'm expecting Eos changes. I'm expecting Sylvaneth changes. And there's only one FAQ left, so a little bit worried.
It'll just be like pointy ears. It'll be the pointy ears FAQ, I think, is what you're looking for.
Yeah, okay. And they obviously would have done something like the Gits points as well. Maybe.
They also have pointy ears, so yeah, they'll probably be included in that.
Okay, here I go. I'm going to click it. It is Seraphon. Okay. It looks like none of those other ones have them here, so we will come back to that later afterwards. So, oh boy, Croak your fuck, son. Oh, baby! Oh, like Vince was like 700 points. I think he might be like 450. Oh my god, right. So Magenta, no rules changes. Okay, they can still do. So they're still okay with the 3-up armor save on Skinks against shooting. Interesting. Really interesting. That's fine. Right, points changes. Enter the Gods, no points change. That seems fine. Saurus Warriors, fine. Bastiladon, still 220 points. That seems quite weird that's that good. Everyone okay with Bastiladon being 220 points?
Yeah,
Is that fine?
I think they're still. I mean, what are they? They're fours and threes.
I don't think anybody's ever played with them since the new books come out. They're only playing with fucking salamanders and frogs.
Don't worry though, Nathan. We've already talked about it. They're already going to be at least the points of Flamers, 140, or they'll be like better because they're like triple the wounds, and they'll be like 160 with a better armor save as well. Ability to teleport. Don't have to take a
they're
war
going to
scroll.
do that for sure. That's what's going to happen.
160. Okay, any of the characters change points. Ripodactyl Chief still 80, Skink Priest still 70. That's quite good. Star Priest 70, Skink Stars here. Okay, Saurus Old Blood on Carnosaur. Interestingly, gone down points. That's not what I would have
change
expected.
we needed. The change we needed. Really.
Not the change we knew we needed, but definitely the change we needed.
No, he is the Batman of the book. You know, he's the one we deserve right now.
There we go.
Okay. All right,
You guys
Saurus.
will speak.
Okay, so the Skink Oracle on Troglodon. If I'm right, he's come down points to 220, or unless he's gone up to 200. Actually, does anyone know if he's gone up or down? Question marks. Because
I think the reason we don't know is because no one cares.
No, that's not true. That's not true actually,
No?
because because he's one of the really good things about the Troglodon is because he came down points. Okay, that makes sense, Mamdare and Skunty Hugh, because you bring him down because quite often one of the complaints that Seraphon players would have, other than that they had to do like at least 2 turns before they won, was that they had to cast Croak's spell. When they cast Croak's spell through the bell, while he was sat on the Bellwind Vortex and next to the guy, and they cast it through the Troglodon, you were spending a lot of points to make that happen. Does that make sense? So, like, with the obvious incoming points increase on Croak, dropping Troglodon down kind of balances it out a little bit. Does that make sense? That makes
Obviously.
sense. That makes sense. Good.
And it's a cool model. Be nice to
It's
see
a
one.
cool model. It's a cool model. Especially right. Anyway, so sorry, I was just getting carried away. Chameleon Skinks, still the points they are. Have you ever played against 60 Chameleon Skinks? It's hilarious. Yeah, not for you, obviously. Right, Razordons. They haven't changed those. Oh my God, Salamanders. Get ready, boys. They have changed to 110 points, which is like a 35% increase on some quick maths. So from 80 to 110 points. Interesting. So what does everyone else think? That's the real question.
Did they not press the right button?
Nathan, did you upload the wrong one again?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think the problem is that they pushed the wrong button when they were making the first fucking one. Because so they put them up from 80 to 110. So that's quite a big hike on a points for something from 80 to 110. It's nearly half again, and it's still not enough. So that means that 80 was a fuck up of note.
It was. James, you got any thoughts?
No.
Dan, it's down to you, baby. What do you think?
Okay, if you've ever been stabbed a little bit, what you really want is for someone to sew up the wound. Now, I will say that I think that salamanders were a bit of a stab wound in the old codex, and instead of sewing up the wound, they maybe like put a Band-Aid on it, which, like, I appreciate the help. I appreciate that you're going like, hey, mate, you look like you're on the struggle bus. Let's get you sorted, shebang-a-bang. But realistically, I'm still bleeding a lot, and I'm still in quite a bit of pain. So I'm going to say that like A+ for intent and for not making the wound bigger. However, as far
that
as
could have happened.
fixing it goes, probably not the resolution that I would have hoped while I'm laying in the back of the ambulance.
Yeah, like Papa Peen says in the chat, you are still going to die. Like...
I think, do you know, thinking about it, because Dan's stories just helped me a bit, I think.
Yeah.
I feel like, as a bunch of nerds, because I'm pretty sure the chat's just full of nerds. I might be wrong.
I'm not.
You know, like,
it's full of legends.
You go into a party, and you know that you're probably not the athletic, good-looking guy, and you're probably going to get picked last because your model's disformed and you're not very pretty. So you've got to bring all the beer to the party so that people still take you off the shelf. There's the salamanders. Hideous. Gotta have balls.
Well, I can actually give some clarity on this, because a lot of people, I know a secret, and it's time for me to reveal the secret. So most people don't know, but one of the model designers, I can't say who, for Games Workshop, secretly actually designs a lot of models for Miss Miniatures and gets a cut, 50% of every salamander that Miss Miniatures sells, yeah? And he's sleeping with one of the rules guys, and he's managed to convince him to keep the numbers low, yeah? Because that's the only way on God's green and pleasant earth that something so horrifically stupid could have occurred. Anyway, it's a terrible. Like, you're right. It's a change, but it's not even close to a good enough. Like, I'm sat there looking at 12 painted salamanders over lockdown, like, lol. You don't necessarily need 12. Maybe you can't do the salamander spam, but for what they are, a unit that you can teleport and can pretty much incise away a unit, and it hasn't even affected any of the other stuff. Like 40 skinks, I think, are still terrifying. It's just salamanders were way too cheap. Like 40 skinks are just still so scary. The Bastillodon build in the Shoot Twice is still super good. It's just like what they've done. Like this was like what it is like dying on the top of Everest. Yeah, right. Yeah, that's what salamanders were. Salamanders were like dying on the top of Everest, right? And it's like, oh, right, okay, I'll try and climb Everest, but I'll only climb up halfway. No, motherfucker, you're probably still going to die. Because Bastillodons are there, 40 skinks, like Croak, who hasn't changed fucking points, which makes no sense. It makes no sense. What the fuck is that? And I love it because he's my favourite model. And if we can all do it, let's just fucking do it. Hey, you buy a Croak, I'll buy a Croak. We'll all just fucking use Croak.
But you can't because he's sold out.
Of course he's sold out. He didn't change points. How many people saw the FAQ drop this morning and they're like, Croak's fucked. And then like when they saw it, they went, oh, we're quickly finished with the shopping cart. Let's do it.
Oh my god, how is Croak not changed points? Someone else be upset that Croak is 320 points. How much Lord of changes? He's 380 points. He's shit. He's just like, I might do one spell. Like, what's your other spell? I don't really have another good spell. I've got one. Like, live with it. Yeah? He's 320 points. He, like, casts 4 spells. It's madness. But, interestingly, he's actually got cheaper because you can now get an even cheaper Troglodon with him, which is fun. Has anyone got any thoughts? Nathan, do you think he's not actually much of an issue?
Don't know. I've not played against him, to be honest. And it
You and me
does
should
sound
play.
like he's that's the best way to deal with the fucker, not play against him. But no, we're going to be playing against him a lot now, aren't we? When we're allowed to play again. Lots of dead frogs everywhere. Fuck's
Now, I'm not saying that this is what I'm going to do, but I might, and I mean might, lick every surface in Nottingham so that the second wave comes. For a year.
In the chat, they're saying Croak is so strong he lowers his points cost. They tried to change his points, but he's too powerful. I think that's it. It's sometimes, you know, when you're in a skid in a car and you need to get out of it, you don't turn against, you turn into the skid. That's probably where they're at. They're like, oh, fuck, we kind of screwed the pooch when it came to Croak. And they're like, hey, should we try to turn out of this? Like, no. When things are going wrong,
too fast.
you keep going into it. Like, let's accelerate out of this problem. And that's where we find ourselves. We're living in the land of Croak.
Because the issue with Croak, if we can actually talk about his damage. No, because to be serious for a moment...
The issue, like there's one.
Well, so when you sometimes get, I mean, number one, those 7 frigates are going to shoot the fuck out of him, and it's going to be like, yes! And you can see, like, the 7 frigate guys, like, they'll be wearing their, like, wing commander scarves. Yeah, they'll be like, tally ho, chaps. Oh, hello! Welcome, yeah, hello! We've just killed loads of frogs over here! And you'll be like, oh, that's really awesome for the first event, and then every event after you'll be like, fuck off, you dickheads! Yeah, we thought you were the Spitfires, you're actually the Luftwaffe. And, sorry, James. But the thing about Croak is that he's actually really good against elite armies, and he's not as good against horde armies. I know what you're going to say. Obviously, they do have a spell that kills hordes as well. We'll ignore that for a moment as if that's not part of the story. It's a good argument. It's a good argument. The thing about Croak is that he's only really good against elite armies and specifically demons. So his existence in the game pushes all demons down. So all demons can't operate as well. So like that, and that's literally all of chaos. You know, like Nurgle demons aren't as good, Slanesh demons aren't as good. None of those are as good because of the existence of Hawkeye. Thanks for the subscription. The existence of Croak. But when people talk about Croak and then taking an Astroloth Bannerbearer who's 140 points, and you're like, oh, actually, you've got to add the Astroloth Bannerbearer. No, you don't have to add the Astroloth Bannerbearer. You just want +1 to cast in an extra 6-inch range. So it's like, oh, yeah, but you have to take the Bellwind Vortex. I'm like, no, you don't have to. It's just you want an additional 6-inch range on the 4 spells he casts. Like, everyone's like, oh, you have to. I'm like, you don't have to. It's just infinitely better when you do. And it's just like, oh, and then I have to take the Skink Oracle or Troglodon. Again, you don't have to. You just want to be able to cast it 36 inches board fucking wide. You're like, oh yeah, but I have spent nearly 800 points there, and Archeon's just looking at me like, am I a joke to you? Am I a sick joke that I don't know? Anyway, this is all. Thanks for skipping that, yeah, shorty. Whatever. Someone else say something. I'm done. I'm out. I've got nothing to say. Eels still the same points. You fucking idiots! So after you, please continue. What do you think?
Well, the eels are the same points. They can go and kill a dead frog.
Oh yeah, that's a really good point actually, because the thing about Croak is he's only really good elite armies. So thankfully, like they don't have anything to kill hordes. Oh no, they've got loads of fucking skinks. Yeah, they was in their battle line, and they're super cheap, and they can literally do like 30 more, well, 20 more wounds out of a unit. Like, anyway, doesn't matter. It's fine. Also,
That's the best clip anyone's ever posted in this chat.
Anyway, I listen. It doesn't matter. I like Seraphon. I want you all to know, and I've always been a long-term Seraphon player. So that's all I've got. What do you think I'm over egging it? Maybe it's not an issue. Any thoughts?
I think given that Croaknado has been a phrase in this game for as long as it has been, is kind of a sign that it's like pretty fucking strong and has been that strong for that long. It like the Croaknado is the everlasting Viagra boner of Age of Sigmar, in that it's been around forever and it probably needs to go to a hospital to see why it won't go away.
I can't get it to go down.
maybe
Leave the dead frog alone. No, I can't put it down.
maybe if we lower the points on the balls and lower the points on the Troglodyte. Like no, he's still just as hard and bony.
I can't put the dead frog down.
Oh my god. Sorry, what was the question, Lee Bromley? Sorry, Lee Bromley answered my question. Asked me a question. I can't remember what it was. Yeah. So, what do you think about the changes to the Seraphon? I mean, skinks are still amazing. What's good about the Seraphon book is there are loads and loads of builds, like loads. You can do pterodons, you can do ripidactyls, like like the short range for. I mean, it doesn't matter. Like, you can, 7 frigates. I just thought about it. I was like, I'll just take 20 Saurus Guard. He's never die. Whatever. But please continue. What do you, I got no words. I'm out of words. Please come on, tell me something. Anyone? Anything? Oh, what? So, okay. So, Seraphon, still dumb. Answered. Easy. My question is there any changes in the current, these PDFs that you expected to see, or that we haven't seen that you're a little disappointed about to you guys?
Was that a pass for Seraphon?
Yeah, they actually made the Croak combination cheaper. Yeah. Oh dear.
Pass.
Well, pass. Well, do you guys?
Let's pass.
I mean, they didn't. Yeah. Pass. Yeah. Is there anything you would have hoped to have seen in this you didn't see so far?
So many things.
Please tell me.
Like straight up looking at it, the same builds are better, or the same effectively. Like you're not going to see a change in anything in that area. I would have loved to see like more coming out of like the Saurus and the that side of things. Like I know that Saurus and the Old Blood got cheaper, but still it's like I mean, Salamanders, you're still going to take them. They're still awesome at that points. Not changing Croak, you're still going to take him. Like it changes nothing about the strongest, most common builds. So why? There's just no interest in there. I mean, Croxigor, come on. Surely we could have had some more Croxigor coming out.
Yeah, something like that. Also, so changes that we haven't seen in this GHB, which have upset me, is Eels. It's just boring at this point. Sorry, Eels dudes. It's just dull. And I get it. You're like, I'm going to fight your loads in turn 3. It's like, sweet. Like, I feel also for the range, I would like to see more coming out of that book. But I think maybe it needs a book rewrite more than it needs necessarily points changes. But you could have literally just gone, do you know what? Eels plus 40 points, Thralls down 40 points per 10. And everyone was like, what? I'm taking hordes of Thralls. Like, maybe that would have been a dumb amount of Thralls, but it gives you something to play around with, right? Eidolons also. How can Croak be 320 and the Eidolon is whatever the fuck, right?
I didn't even think of that.
The Eidolon's more.
Be more than 10 points compared
And
to
I think
Croak.
someone put that Alariel's double the cost of the of Croak.
Yeah. So that's Ideneth, which we haven't seen. Obviously, Sylvaneth got 0 love, which is just bonkers. Alariel 0 points all the time. We didn't see any points changes for Beast of Chaos. Yes, Dragon Ogre's got a little bit cheaper, but no, that isn't a change for Beast of Chaos. That's a change for one really weird dude who lives somewhere who's just got loads of Dragon Ogres. Yeah, and he's like, I'm fucking ready, lads.
I've been waiting for this my entire life.
With the same 3 models repeated several times.
So we didn't see any Beast of Chaos love. Like, if this is it, if this is all we're getting, I think that's a huge shame, personally. No Nighthaunt changes, like, not to any particular degree. And obviously, it's hard to balance Nighthaunt because I don't want to end this on, like, sour notes, but these are just some of the changes that, like, are a little bit disappointing, I think. Because I, for one, FYI, love Seraphon. They're one of my favourite armies. So I'm kind of torn. I'm kind of like, and then I'm like, fuck it, whatever. I can speed. No, there's a particular person on Twitter at the minute who's speed painting some Seraphon, and I'm like, I wonder fucking why. Yeah, it's just like, I'm going to contrast some Seraphon as a painting challenge. I'm like, bollocks. Yeah, like, anyway, is there anything else you would like to see changed? Nath, Gits, would you like to see them re-looked at or anything?
Yeah, I would have. I mean, but the problem with the Gits book, I think, really is the keywords in that book need looking at. So, you look at how all this little skink priests and that all interact with the skinks, or even how the Saurus heroes interact with the Saurus dudes, and you're just like that sort of level of interaction in the Gits. It just feels a little bit more complicated and a little bit harder than it needs to be in that book. But obviously that's more War Scroll and allegiance ability problems than points wise. Yeah, other than that, I think the Gits book is quite a fun book, a good book to play with. But yeah, but then when you hold it up against the Seraphon book, it's just like on a different planet. In a different realms. They're realms apart. So yeah.
They are realms apart. That's good. That's a good one. What's the balance like? Realms apart. That's what the balance is like. Dan, is there anything else you would like to have seen anywhere?
I think we've spoken about all of it. What I would have liked to see more, though, coming out of this and coming out of the General's Handbook, is a couple of changes that would have actually really shaken up the game. Like that for me would have been the big ones. If at some point, like the one that I wrote down that would piss a lot of people off and it would like change the shape of the game in a heartbeat, is if models with fly didn't count for scoring objectives. Like they kind of like the boots on the ground thing they've got in 40k. I mean, that would fuck a lot of armies. It'd fuck a lot of builds. But suddenly, you can't just throw out a full army of eels with a few little boys on foot every now and then. Like your eels can't capture that. I'm not saying that that's the change I would have wanted to see, but something like that would have shaken up the game.
Yeah, that would have been interesting. I would, yeah. James, you got any thoughts?
I think it's just a continuation of the conversation we had the other week, isn't it? There's just not enough in there to make a vast difference. However, I will say, having had people play here at the weekend, I think the 2 new battle plans are absolutely incredible.
The scenarios are
super good, and I think it's a shame, isn't it? I know we talked about it last week. Was it last week we talked about it, or the week before? General's Handbook. I can't remember, but I know we talked about it before. And I would say that actually having watched like 4 games of those 2 new battle plans run kind of simultaneous, it made me even more sad that so many things in that book are good. That then when you look at the points and you're like, what was the point? You might as well have just left them. It doesn't really matter. There's maybe a couple in there that do.
Okay, yeah, fair points. Twitch chat, your last chance to have a say here. Do we think the top tier is quite healthy? Armies up there, DOK, Eels, KO, Seraphon, OBR, Lumineth, Uruks, but the gulf from there is much bigger. I think that there is a big disparity between the top and the bottom.
I think KO have got to be happy. They've got to be
Yeah.
eyeing up those top brackets. But I think the book, the General's Handbook, with the scenarios and the other little tweaks that they did with the ward save and then the spells, I think those were all fab. And then it's just how far could they have gone with the points? Obviously, they could have gone a lot further than they did.
It's actually a really interesting conversation because the comparison between this and 40k is exactly the same. The structural changes in 40k are currently are really interesting. The battle plans or the missions are far more thought out, and you're just amazing. And I feel that they've done this with the GHB as well. I think absolutely everything around the game has been amazing. And I also agree with this for the GHB. This GHB. But I honestly think that the points are just what world are you living in? And it's kind of they almost feel at odds. They know what the problems are, right? They're do you know what? Too many ender spells, that's a problem. Too many DPRs, that's a problem. You're all right, sweet. These new battle plans, you really thought about that. But it feels like no thoughts put in at all to the points. And that also feels that is actually a similar thought actually happening in 40k. So I wonder where the disconnect is. I think
it'd be really interesting, and I haven't read a copy in a very long time. But even from back in the past, and then when they restarted White Dwarf, and you could subscribe at a lower price, I did that for quite a while. But I always found that the battle plans, or whatever you want to call them, in there, the battle reports, always tend to be them being oh, we were going to play points, but then we just pick cool models off the shelf. And maybe that's what happens. Maybe they're let's test the game. You pick a tray of models and I'll pick a tray of models. Do you know what I mean? Maybe and that's why they're oh, this would be really cool. This would be really good. This is a really good thing. Oh, your tray had 13 endless spells on. That was too many. But no one's ever thought about points because they're just how many points is that? Don't know. I was going to do a Zine, but it's not updated, so Nathan's not doing that today.
Someone was hey, should we play test and check the Deepkin points? And someone's yeah, for sure. Should we do this whole heal thing? And they're we don't have that many painted up. Nah, you know what?
One unit of 3.
Yeah, no one's going to do that. We'll take one of each unit. We'll do that, and let's take an Eidolon because they're cool, and everybody's going to want an Eidolon.
And the Eidolon kicks ass all the time.
Yeah. It's so dangerous when he gets into hand.
Yeah. Oh my God, he killed both of my fire bellies. I didn't know what to do. Anyway, listen, if you guys are listening, maybe it's your first time listening or not, don't forget, being constructive or reviewing this stuff is intentional, right? We say what's crappy and we say what's good. KO obviously came out of this really, really well, which is really good for them. And it shouldn't put you off the game because it's still really fun. Almost everyone is pretty rubbish at Warhammer anyway. So the points are really only actually an issue if you're ever playing particularly well, which more than times than not. And if you're listening to any of the really crappy content creators, you can't really play Warhammer properly anyway because the priority roll. So whatever, it doesn't really matter. So
also, it's a bullshit game, and unless you're on keto, you don't understand it. So, if you've had carbs in the last however long or whatever you're not allowed to eat, then you can't play War Dollies to the top tier levels.
Exactly, but it is an amazingly fun game, especially because of the community. And there are loads of awesome models, and the game normally swings around, which isn't the best thing to say right now, but that is at least a nice element. Oftentimes, it doesn't swing around very fast looking at you, Eels, but, it will swing around. So, don't be too, disheartened, even if we've been trying to make it, we've tried to point out the obvious problems. Does that make sense? That seems fair. Yeah. Yeah, I don't want anyone to be unhappy about that. All right, before we go, and the big, like Mark says, the AOS community is amazing, and there's so many great dudes out there, and plus, this does nothing but fuel Halo Twitch, so that's worth it for that alone. because I just love retweeting those. All right, have you guys got any shout-outs, any final thoughts before we head off for the day? We were going to do Anvils of Apotheosis, but this has already gone on for quite a while, so we're going to just do this for the day, which I think is fair, and we'll try and move that on to next week. You guys got anything? Nath, you got anything you think you want to put out there?
Obviously, shout out the Bruces. That was great going down there. And shout out all those people that struggled to put down the dead frog.
I cannot wait to use him against you. It's going to be so much fun. Dan, you got anything?
I'm just gonna say RIP Demon players. It was nice knowing you. And other than that, I'm just gonna throw a shout out to all the lovely people in Canada who have been living above a COVID time bomb and not catching it. Good job. A+ everybody. I like going outside.
Well done. Well done. Lick the frog. That's correct. James, you got any thoughts?
A big shout out to everyone who put up with me being a TO, drinking cider and sitting on a bench and heckling them. That was important. And then I guess, they finally killed my Bretonians, so thanks GW. Now they can gather dust.
Yes, they should. Well, they're legends, aren't they? That's why I think the Games
so
Workshop.
They're here. They sit behind me every week, and now they can just look there pretty forever. And
You're actually looking into a Hogwarts fireplace, though, not at your models.
Oh, sorry, yeah. Sorry, I forgot what room I was in. This isn't Hogwarts now, it's my house. Warner Brothers went bankrupt and I brought it.
I think my favourite thing about, like I said at the beginning of the show, when they send things into Legends, they're basically like, fuck off now. Which is why I always think Games Workshop are such a bunch of legends. That's what I think. I just think, what a great bunch of legends. And that's who my shout-out is for, the Games Workshop dudes. Well done to you guys. But mainly, it's to the Honest Wargamer crew. Thank you, everyone, for joining us live. The stream chat, you guys have been hilarious today, so thank you so much. And thank you to everyone who listens to the podcast. Please stay hydrated. And everyone on the Honest Wargamer Patreon. We couldn't do it without you. That's the only way we're able to do it. So, big shout. Big love, big thanks. Join us again tomorrow. Also, actually, no. My final shout-out isn't, unfortunately, an Sigmar one. Well, it is kind of a friend of the show, Val Heffelfinger, who normally would join me for the 40k adjacent show on a Tuesday morning, so in about 12 hours' time. But he won't be joining me tomorrow. We'll be joined by the wonderful Adam Camilleri because he just had his first child. Well, I mean, he didn't. Oh. His wife did. Big shout out to baby Val.
Is it a boy and is it called Magnus?
No, it's a young. It is a young boy. He's quite young. You could say
boy.
He's actually he's as young as you can be, just about, and still be a person.
Anyway, but big shout out to him.
Observations are great.
I know, I'm killing it.
That's like, it annoys me when people say they're a night owl, and I'm like, as opposed to what? Those more common day owls? Like, oh, he's a young boy.
How's this water? Wet. That's how it is. Anyway, You guys are great. Have a great day, and look after yourselves. Goodbye.